Hello, people. Welcome back to the OCM Botcast. I am your host, Chad Marco. So I'm using a new pop filter, so I don't know exactly how good it's gonna work. So if you hear pop pop poop pop poop pop poop poop, right, then it means that my new pop filter isn't as effective. But goddamn, it looks nice. It looks very nice. So today's episode, what is this? Episode 34. This is episode 34 of the Botcast. This episode is called Trap Theory. Now, I'm sure most of you guys know that, traps refer to so many words you could use to describe it, but the fetish of what cross-dressing men, trannies, transsexuals, film boys, lady boys, new halves, like it's just like a billion words for it at this point. But today we're going to be discussing traps, trap porn, and the overall like trap fetish and sexuality and things of that nature. So this is gonna be a very interesting episode that you won't want to miss. Then we're gonna have TOD, comments, OC. Pretty much everything is as it should be on this episode. We got all the bells and whistles, so it's going to be a great episode and a little bit of news as well. But of course, before that, we're going to do a Buddha quote of the day. But let's hang out for a little bit. Let's hang out and chop it up. And this is October, one of my favorite months of the year, because of course, one of my favorite holidays, Halloween, which is the holiday of candy. I love sweets. I have a sweet tooth. And horror movies. I love horror movies. I've been indulging in horror movies. I haven't gotten to play as many horror games as I wanted to. I played quite a bit of Resident Evil Outbreak earlier in the month. Dabbled a little bit in a few horror games on stream, and I'm playing Evil Within now. But yeah, I pretty much plan on just going hard with Evil Within towards the end of the month. As far as for the gaming channel, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, everything that's on the gaming channel. If you will, go subscribe over there. And I'm also planning to do a movie night with you guys if you're interested before the end of October. So I got to make sure I put this out quick because the end of October is fastly approaching, and so I want to get a movie night going with the guys in the Discord and maybe some of you guys before the month is out. But I'll start setting that up starting today. But other than that, life has been relatively normal for the most part. Just been enjoying myself, trying to stay busy. I feel like recently I have really gotten back into music. Cause you guys know I tend to not be the most productive person in the world. I can get kind of lazy and lose focus, but recently I've really reignited that spark as far as music is concerned. And what really did it was I decided that, cause I'm wrapping up drill music right now. And I decided that even though I'm not completely done with it, I'm going to start really producing for Robot Music 9003. And so that's what I've been doing recently. And I got quite a few beats that I haven't even uploaded because I'm saving that for the Robot Music 3 mixtape. But that has really gotten me back into the swing, man. I can't even lie. Like it's something about making those feelsy songs, those songs about being an outcast and unrequited love, and really I'm just doing like some light writing for it, but mainly focusing on the production side right now. And I've been on the road. I've been really enjoying myself as far as music is concerned, and that feels very good. So I'm in a very nice place right now. The only thing is something about October, obviously Halloween and everything, it makes me like overindulge in like junk food and stuff. So I'm a little pudgy. I'm a little pudgy right now, but I've been keeping up with my workout, so I'm looking kind of strong fat right right now. But I'm sure I'll take off the few extra pounds during November. No nut November. Oh Lord, that's coming up. I better get those last FAPs in before that. But that's pretty much all that's going on with me. I'm gonna have more interesting news probably on very soon. On the next Botcast or the one after. But right now, everything is relatively normal, just enjoying myself and trying to stay busy, trying to stay productive, and just always striving to be better. So without further ado, let's get to the Buddha quote of the day before we move on. Hold on. So this Buddha quote says, "The wise do not take delight in the senses and their objects, are not impressed by them, are not attached to them, and in consequence, their craving ceases." So this is something that sort of connects to something that I've heard quite a bit, not being too attached to the material world, not being too attached to material things. You know, whenever you think of like monks, and spiritual people and spiritual journeys, there's always this theme of sort of isolating yourself from worldly comforts, good foods and luxuries, sex and all kind of stuff. So you can get to the core of spirituality or yourself, whatever your particular spiritual journey might be about. So there's always been this concept of detachment from the material whenever you look into spiritual practices. And although I gotta be honest, I love my toys. I love my senses and all that. I look, it is what it is. I'm not on that level. I'm not ready to go to the mountains yet. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I'm not ready to go to the mountains yet and eat rice once every 3 days and meditate 16 hours a day. I'm not ready for that. I want to play some video games and masturbate to porn, but I get it. It's not wise to be too attached to what is fleeting. So here's the next one. If a man speaks or acts with a pure mind, joy follows him as his own shadow. I like that. If a man speaks or acts with a pure mind, joy follows him as his own shadow. Man, let's just resonate. Let that one go straight to your bones and feel it. Let it stir around in your mind. And we're going to close out with that. There's the Buddha quote of the day. And so next we're going to have the news section of the Botcast. Sip some water. So let's get straight into it. So if you guys don't know, recently there was a rapper that was murdered in LA. His name is PnB Rock. I'm not a fan. I've never heard any of his music. Maybe I've heard it, but just didn't know it was him, but not really a fan, but I knew of him. I know of a lot of rappers, but I don't listen to a lot of like mainstream hip hop. I'm sure I might have said that before. But yeah, I do know of him, and recently he was murdered while he was eating in a restaurant. I believe it was it Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles or Waffle House? It was something, but it was a waffle something restaurant in LA, and some guys ran up into the establishment, and I think it was maybe two, or was it one guy? There were multiple people who were arrested, but I believe there was one guy who actually went into the restaurant to commit the robbery. And so, of course, he pointed the gun at PnB, demanded his jewelry and whatever he had on him. I'm not sure if PnB resisted or if he gave it up and still got shot. From what I heard, I could have sworn I heard DJ Academic say that he had resisted, and so they shot him, or he shot him and just took his shit like that. And he just pretty much bled out right there in the restaurant. Tragic stuff, but that's not necessarily what I'm talking about, because there's a news article that is more so talking about the general phenomenon of rappers being targets. especially in LA. This is an article from the LA Times, and this is what we're going to be covering today for the news section. And so let's get right into it. The title says, "You're obviously a target. Rappers rethink security protocols in the wake of PnB Rock killing." Now, I'm a rapper, but I'm not a famous rapper. I'm in the basement of the underground. I'm in the basement. I'm in the laundry room of the basement of the underground as far as like fame and popularity is concerned. But this is something that I think about, because one thing that you'll notice, you see quite a few famous rappers getting robbed and killed on a pretty regular basis. You can count on it happening several times throughout any year nowadays. But you also see a lot of rappers that aren't famous getting shot and killed. Like, how many rappers do we discover because they got killed? That's another thing that happens too. You see a lot of rappers who only have a name in their local area or a small following, and then they get killed, and all of a sudden it's news because they were a hip hop artist. And so that kind of makes the story more sensational and whatnot. So even someone like myself, I think about things like this. And that's part of the reason why I don't really make a lot of noise in my own city, because I don't really put myself out there like that. I don't move like that. Of course, to the detriment of my popularity and career, maybe. But I enjoy my privacy. I enjoy my solitude. But I still have to think, what if one of my songs blew up one day, and then how would I deal with the security aspect of becoming a known rapper? Because we are targets. It is what it is. People want to try you. People feel like you got a lot of money, and really a part of the culture is displaying your wealth through chains, cars, different types of jewelry, rings and earrings and whatnot, bracelets, beautiful women, designer clothes, big houses, nice things where there's a huge game collection. I don't know. I'm pretty sure Soulja Boy probably has like a ridiculous gaming collection or something, but I digress. The point is that when you're a rapper, you definitely have to think about your safety. Every celebrity has to, but in particular, there is definitely a special negativity that rappers attract. And I don't know exactly why that is, because you don't hear about rock stars. You don't hear about Metallica getting shot at. You don't hear about Green Day getting robbed, right? Not saying that some of these others, like mostly with, if you're talking about a genre outside of hip hop and rap and R&B, then maybe they get robbed or something, or they deal with a stalker. But we get shot and killed on the regular. So we have a unique issue in the hip hop community amongst artists where we really have to be on top of our game as far as security is concerned. Luckily right now, I don't have to deal with it, but it still is something that I have to think about, because you never know. So let's get into the depth of this article. So it says, rapper Glasses Malone is a regular. Hold up. Okay. Rapper Glasses Malone is a regular at the South LA Roscoe's House of Chicken and Waffles, where fellow artist PnB Rock was shot and killed last month. "I've been going there my whole life. I've probably eaten there 200 times, said Malone, a 42-year-old proud Crip member and collaborator with Kendrick Lamar, Lil Wayne, and Ty Dolla $ign, who grew up in nearby Watson, Compton. PnB Rock's killing during the robbery of the rapper's diamond-studded necklace and other jewelry was difficult news for Malone to hear, but it wasn't surprising." So he was robbed of his diamond-studded necklace and other jewelry. So one thing about me, I'm not into the whole jewelry thing anyway. I got two cheap Amazon I got two cheap hoop earrings in my left ear that I got from Amazon for like $10, $15 or something. Like, I'm a minimalist when it comes to accessories. I wear a lanyard, a $10 lanyard of a variety of styles. I'm sure you guys have seen my Naruto lanyard, my Super Smash Brothers lanyard. I got a Cowboy Bebop one, Sailor Moon, a Evangelion one. I wear lanyards and cheap hoop earrings. Like, I don't I'm not even into the whole jewelry thing. Anyway, it's not even just me being broke. I'm just not into that type of stuff. But obviously, if you are, then you kind of make yourself a target. In fact, you absolutely do make yourself a target, because not only are women going to see it and be like, oh, he's that. Oh, who's that? He looks like he has money. But the wolves are going to see it too. And if it looks like you're wearing some real jewelry, or if they know you to be someone who wears real jewelry, like if you see PnB Rock or Lil Wayne or Ty Dolla $ign and they got on a big thick ass chain, you can bet your ass that shit is real. I don't know too many rappers or of a certain level that walk around with the fake stuff, but they're usually comfortable doing it because they have security. Just having money in general, especially when you're showcasing cars or things in your body, you're obviously a target, he said. Hip hop often tries to sell wealth and success on social media, but at some point, you're just giving somebody a list of potential victims. The city's black music community has suffered a string of high profile and violent losses of life over the last couple of years. In the last month alone, 3 rappers, PnB Rock, Compton's Key Riches, and Inglewood's Half Ounce were killed in LA. Beloved MC Draco the Ruler was stabbed to death at the Once Upon a Time in LA festival in December 2021, just weeks prior. Jacqueline Avant, wife of famed music executive Clarence Avant, was killed during a home invasion in Beverly Hills. In February 2020, 20-year-old rising star Pop Smoke, visiting LA from New York, was shot and killed in a home invasion after inadvertently posting the address of a Hollywood Hills rental home on Instagram. The year before that, local icon Nipsey Hussle was murdered outside his clothing boutique in South LA. I mean, it's crazy. The scariest one is when you see wife of famed music executive Clarence Avant was killed during a home invasion in Beverly Hills. They just don't give a fuck. It used to be you could just move to a better neighborhood and you wouldn't have to worry about stuff like this for the most part. But now it just seems like these criminals are much more brazen in their attacks. And just look at how PnB Rock was killed, broad daylight in a restaurant full of people, and the guy was just I gotta get him, I gotta take him. And you know, I can't help but think of Lil Boosie and that his famous Vlad TV interview about these guys that commit these murders and these robberies being hypnotized with hatred, because this shit don't even make logical sense as from a criminal perspective, right? Broad daylight, restaurant full of witnesses, and you just and I believe most of them have already been caught. The guys who robbed and killed XXXTentacion arrested and about to spend many years, if not the rest of their lives, in prison. The guys who killed Pop Smoke caught, arrested, about to spend many years or the rest of their lives in prison. The man who killed Nipsey Hussle, same thing. Broad daylight, brazen attacks, and it's like it's not even logical from a criminal perspective of like, oh, let's case the joint and try to make sure we don't get, like, trying to not get caught doesn't even seem to be part of the equation anymore. It's just like we got to run these motherfuckers down, and that's the scariest thing about it. And that's why I feel like I feel like that Boosie interview is just so important to this day, because he really that was easily his best interview, because what he said, hypnotized with hatred, it's the only explanation, because logic and reason doesn't even begin to enter into the equation with these situations. Celebrities have increasingly become targets of brazen burglaries as well. Rapper T Grizzly lost more than $1 million in jewelry during a burglary at his Porter Ranch home last month. Ariana Grande, Chris Brown, and Taylor Swift have endured recent break-ins at their homes. Kim Kardashian, then married to Kanye West, was bound and robbed of her $4 million engagement ring in Paris in 2016. Whoa. Now, this is conspiracy time. What if some of these robberies are orchestrated and committed by the government or some God, I don't want to, like, CIA, FBI. I'm just this is conspiracy chat Marco here. But some of these more high profile ones where they never catch them, because you got to think about it. As if you're part of the United States government or the government of France, whatever, and you're plugged in as far as intel and endless amounts of spy equipment or anything that you would need to do something like this. Why not? I'm just saying, because look, again, conspiracy chat Marco, but the thought just popped in my head. And it's something I've been thinking about, because I mean, obviously, PnB Rock getting murdered in broad, that's a dumb nigga doing that shit. That's dumb nigga shit right there. That's typical dumb nigga hypnotized with hatred shit. We already know. But the stuff like the Kim Kardashian and Ariana Grande and when I see these stories where they get in, they get out, and they don't get caught, of course a good criminal could do that, but sometimes I wonder if there is a different or there's a higher level organization committing some of these robberies. Because just roll with me, right? I know I'm kind of going off topic, but roll with me. If you were in the FBI or the CIA and you guys say, you know what, man, we need some money. Like, we gotta, like, I'm trying to get some money off these motherfuckers. Wouldn't they have the know-how, the intel, the equipment, and everything necessary to set it up to rob these celebrities and get away with it scot-free, right? I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not saying this is what it is, but it's just something that crossed my mind. Please, CIA, FBI, I'm not accusing you of anything. This is conspiracy chat Marco. All right, I'm putting conspiracy chat Marco back on the shelf. All right, this is regular chat Marco here. Okay. Amid wider debates about rising violent crime rates in LA and nationwide, many artists are taking new measures to stay safe. Okay, I've seen violence my whole life. It just doesn't look quite the same today, Malone said. I've signed $1 million deals, but I don't buy jewelry. You can see we're in a really bad situation. It's a stage of desperation setting in. I refuse to present myself as an easy opportunity. And, one of the things that I think about is, should I ever earn a decent amount of money to where I could afford these things? I don't think I would. And not just jewelry, but even cars. If I hope that should I ever come into a lot of money, I can stay wise and humble enough to not want to be a show off. Not saying I'll just buy a piece of shit, but I would not be one of these guys buying these super fancy sports cars that just stand out like a sore thumb wherever you go, especially in the hood. Like, in my city is one of the most dangerous small cities in America, and I see some nice cars rolling around here. And man, look, kudos to them for not giving a fuck, but I wouldn't do stuff like that. And even now, I went to the gas station, and they have a sign up that says, "Don't leave your car running when you go in to get gas," because they're stealing cars. You have these guys who hang out around the gas station looking for people leaving their car on. They jump right in and drive off. It must have happened a couple times because they put that sign up. But that's the energy that people are on right now. These guys don't give a damn. I'm telling you. Historically, musicians have had a close relationship with their security details. The 1992 film The Bodyguard dramatized the intimacy between a pop singer and her protector. Tupac Shakur's bodyguard, Frank Alexander, and the Notorious B.I.G.'s Gene Deal entered their client's lore during the 90s gangster rap feuds. Lady Gaga and Adele are often spotted with the former Mr. Europe Peter Van Der Veen glowering above them. Beyonce's Julius DeBoer, I know I'm pronouncing that name wrong, but excuse me, separated her husband Jay-Z and sister Solange during their infamous elevator fight. But artists and managers face a more complex set of threats today than a decade ago. Social unrest and economic inequality have raised tensions across the country, while social media offers new ways for criminals to find potential victims. The proliferation of guns can turn lower stakes conflicts bloody in an instant. So social media is definitely a game changer as far as security, not just for celebrities, but for the everyday person. Because I don't know exactly how these criminals operate, but it seems like what they do is they have an Instagram account, more than likely a burner account where they don't necessarily put, obviously are not probably not putting personal information and pictures of themselves. It might just be a dummy account, and they follow various celebrities and whatnot that they know to be in their area or in their state or they're part of the state, whatever the case may be. You follow them and you just keep tabs on what they're doing and where they're at, and then that can help you get the drop on guys. But when you hear about these cases like Pop Smoke and of course XXXTentacion, right? Like what allowed those guys to know where he was at? I doubt it was a spur of the moment thing. They were riding around. Oh, that's his car. Let's go get him. It had to have been planned even further before that. They might have been stalking his Instagram account or his Twitter account, and then saw. Because I believe that before he even went to where he got robbed at, he would. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a while ago when he died. But I believe that wasn't he on Instagram Live in his car talking to his fans before he got there, or at least earlier that day. I'm not sure, but still, social media has been a blessing and a curse because the way it makes people want to share their lives. You're telling the world where you are and how you live and what type of guns you have. If you have a gun, like if you have a dog, who lives with you? What's your lifestyle like? You're pretty much letting people into your life, and social media has allowed people to do that like never before, even the average person. And so you really have to be careful about what you post on social media. Sometimes I want to post like something new that I buy, and you guys know I'm basically, even after getting the part-time job, like I'm still basically broke most of the time with just a little spending money here and there. But I've been able to afford to buy more things that I want. And I be thinking about posting like, oh, I bought this new game. You know, of course I'm not buying jewelry and cars and shit, but I might buy a new game or a manga or something. But and I might want to post it, but a lot of times I just won't do it because I don't want to give off this impression that I'm buying all these different things, because somebody might be watching my shit and they're like, oh, he bought this, he bought that, he bought this and bought that. And it might not be a lot compared to a famous wealthy rapper, but I'm telling you, man, these broke dudes out here, they will risk their life and their freedom over a flat screen and a PS5. I'm telling you, like they will risk everything over a flat screen, a PS5, and an iPhone. That's all it takes. An iPhone alone, motherfuckers will risk their freedom. I'm telling you. And so you got to be careful about that shit, even if you're small time. In 2021, the LAPD reported that homicides in Los Angeles had increased by 11.8%. and robberies 5.5% over the previous year after falling to record lows in 2019. However, last year's totals are still far below those of the 90s when LA had 500,000 fewer residents, or even the mid-2000s. Many U.S. cities have seen similar recent rises in homicides. The last decade remains the safest in LA history. Look, I'm not a Donald Trump supporter, but I pay attention. And you guys know I've said this before, but I keep noticing this shit where when Donald Trump was president, so many people were bent out of shape about it. But when you look back, weren't you more upset because you didn't like him as a person, not because the state of the country was objectively becoming worse? Now Biden is president and you keep seeing stuff like come on, 2019, that was the Trump era, right? That's the middle, that's right in the middle or towards the end of the Trump era, if I'm correct, right? And then now all of a sudden homicides and robberies go up 11%. Robberies go up 5% over the previous year. And I'm just saying, pay attention to stuff like that. I'm not saying that this has anything to do with Biden, but I just find stuff like this suspicious. Like why all of a sudden are there more homicides? Why all of a sudden are there more robberies? And this isn't just in LA. Many US cities have seen similar recent rises in homicides. Why is there suddenly all this inflation? Why have the prices of food and so many other things going up all of a sudden? Why did gas go up to almost $5 a few months back? And right after Biden becomes president. I'm just paying attention. Maybe all this would have happened regardless, but I just find it weird. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know, but I'm just paying attention. Still, artists are worried. LA rapper Roddy Ricch, 23, wrote recently on Instagram, "It's too much senseless violence, too much opportunity and motivation to take things other people work hard for. It's too much life to live to take someone else's away. I love my city, but we can't keep going out like this." And that's straight to the point. That's absolutely true. It's too much senseless violence, and what's so bad about it is that a lot of these robberies and a lot of these killings is over bullshit. Niggas killing over bitches. Girl, you a problem. You making the hood hot. Like that's real shit. I'm on this rapping. Niggas killing over bitches, over shoes, over $1,000 worth of stuff, $2,000-$3,000. Like you're committing murders over money that's not gonna get you through the month. You're risking your life, your freedom, over a small, minuscule amount of money that's not going to take you through the month. You risk 50 years over a month of balling. You're out of your mind. It's senseless. That's the perfect way to describe it. It's absolutely senseless. Every time I see one of my friends bleed out on camera or killed on camera, I feel a sick feeling I can't even really explain. Meek Mill wrote last month on Twitter about PnB Rock. It puts me more and more back in survival mentality. And that's where you got to be at. You know, even myself, like when I go outside, man, I look both ways. When I'm going out the side door, the back door, I look both ways and make sure all the doors are locked and look outside the window. And really, I try to be up at night. I don't like to sleep at night. That's another thing. That's why I'm up right now. I don't like to sleep at night. Usually if I sleep at night, it'll be like late. If I sleep at night, it'll be late by like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't like to sleep at night. Every time my mom leaves for work, at her main job at about 9:30, 10 p.m. and it's dark. It'd be dark outside. I go outside with her every time. I go outside with her every time she goes out to go to work and get in her car at night. I'll be out there right with her. I made sure. I don't care if I'm asleep. I don't care if I'm in the middle of a fab session or playing the game. I pause that shit and I go right out there with her, and I don't leave till she pulling off. Because it's real out here. And like Meek Sales said, survival mentality. I mean, I live my life sometimes. You got to really be thinking like you in prison in a way. Get up, do your push-ups, always look behind you, be cautious. Like, real shit, man. LA is a dangerous place now. Doesn't matter if you are a celebrity or not. Ice-T wrote in the wake of Rock slaying. If you notice, LA rappers don't wear a lot of jewelry. Me, Snoop, Cube, Dre, Game, Kendrick, the list goes on. It's not because we're broke. LA is just a dangerous place, rapper or not. Why test the streets? So you see, he lists a who's who of famous LA rappers, California rappers, Snoop, Cube, Dre, Game, Kendrick, and yeah, you don't see those guys with the thick check for the most part. Maybe for like a photo shoot or something like that. But he's saying you don't see them like walking around with the stuff. And I think this generation of rapper is different. Now it's like, you're not just putting on the costume for a video or a photo shoot. You really want to be that guy that can go to the mall every day with all your stuff on. You want to be like, who was it? MO3 or Mo3? I believe when he was on the Vlad TV interview, he was talking about how, look, I pay a lot of money for this chain. I'm wearing this shit. But he ended up getting killed. It wasn't over his jewelry, but still, his mentality kind of shows the mentality of a lot of the modern rappers. Is, look, I bought it, it's mine, I'm wearing it. Whether I'm going to the pool, if I'm going to the beach, I'm in the studio, I'm wearing my shit, and it is what it is. PnB Rock's killing was especially unnerving as it occurred in broad daylight at a popular local restaurant. Rock played a role in some of hip-hop's biggest hits in the mid-2010s, from his song Selfish to YFN Lucci's Everyday We Lit. Police initially speculated that his girlfriend's location tag Instagram story may have led to his killing September 12th. Prosecutors later charged Freddie Lee Strone and his 17-year-old son with murder, father and son. Goddamn, bro. Both were in the parking lot before the photo was posted. According to law enforcement sources, a third suspect, Chantel Trone, 38, has been charged with robbery and being an accessory after the fact. No suspects have been arrested in half-ounce or Key Rich's killings. So a lot of people speculated that it was his girlfriend who pretty much got him robbed and killed because of her posting on Instagram. I'm sure she feels a lot better now that this new information came out, that they were already there before she posted. Like, she can breathe a sigh of relief. Even if it was her, I know a lot of people gave her a lot of shit for that. But really, as the artist, you got to be the one to control your camp and make sure that that you're all moving correctly, that you're all on the same page, that you guys understand that, look, we can't be out here posting on Instagram everywhere we go, all our locations, phones off, no posting on post on Instagram what we did yesterday or the week before last. But as the artist, it's your responsibility to control that. You can't be upset when people in your entourage are doing things and you don't have them up to speed with how you're supposed to be moving. And especially, you know how girls are. Girls, they love attention. They love social media. You gotta make sure she with the program way beforehand. And this seemed like she was a serious girlfriend. So either she already knew or he never put her on game. But I'm sure she felt better. I mean, look, it's a horrible situation, but you don't want it to be your fault, you know. But it looks like they were already out there, so they might have actually followed them there. Maybe they were already there, and then it was like, oh, that's PnB Rock. Because you know, when a celebrity is in an area, it's kind of hard to miss because everybody looking. I swear I thought I saw Dwayne Wade when I was in Walmart. I know it couldn't have been him. but I'm just saying, that shit was funny, bro, because I looked at him. I was like, is that Dwayne Wade? And he looked at me like, this nigga think I'm Dwayne Wade. Like, he know he looked like Dwayne Wade. And he knew that I thought he was Dwayne Wade. But anyway, I digress. Let's move on. Barry Hefner Johnson, who manages Atlanta rappers JID and Earth Gang, among others, said his artists aren't flamboyant with their jewelry. But for artists who do flaunt their wealth in public, he feels security is 1,000% needed, even if the performers don't feel the same way. Oh, excuse me. Some folks have the ego. Ain't shit gonna happen to me. I'm really like that. I'm gangster, Johnson said. That's the worst mentality to have, because then you think you're invincible. You think you're the baddest person on the planet, and unfortunately, that's just not true. Anybody can be caught at any given time. For artists in general, and especially our black artists, if you're going to invest in your appearance through jewelry, watches, and all these things to shine like a diamond, you got to protect yourself like a diamond. When you walk into a jewelry store, the jewelry is locked up in a glass case, protected. If you don't value those things the way the people who buy them from value them, then you don't value yourself. That is a perfect comparison. You got to protect it the same way the people you buy it from protect it. Malone agreed that while custom-made diamond encrusted necklaces look great in videos, they're a liability in real life. It is what it is, man. In this era right now, you got to be low key. It's really about being low key. It's about staying out the way, and yeah, because it's too many wolves out here right now, and you got to be ready. LA natives know the normal routine. If you saw Snoop walking around in 93, there was nothing to rob from him. Malone said, if Taylor Swift or Ariana Grande went to the ghetto with jewelry, they're going to get robbed too. Where I come from, if you see $250,000 of jewelry on somebody, that's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And me, not to jinx myself, but I man, before I got my car, my vehicle, I walked and ran everywhere. I mean, not everywhere, but if there was somewhere I wanted to go or needed to go, man, whether it was up to Flag Marsh or Walmart, the movie theater, the mall, the grocery store, McDonald's, wherever, even to work, there were times I rode my bicycle to work or whatever, man. When I was going to get my GED, I was walking and running up that way. And luckily, fortunately, nothing has ever happened to me. But one thing about me is I look broke anyway. Like, okay, you want to hurt me? You want to rob me for what? I ain't got shit. I'm telling you, if you see me out, and you rob me, let me tell you, at best you might get $30. You might get $30 worth of stuff. I'll have my little cheap Android phone that I bought for what, $70, $80 or something. It's cracked and fucked up, probably worth about $10 now. My New Balance has got holes in the bottom of them now. I might have $5 in my wallet. If I got a card in my wallet, it's probably $5 on the card. It ain't worth it. And you can look at me and tell that it ain't worth it. But otherwise, if I was out here walking around with Jordans on and Gucci and a chain, and I was looking like a rapper, if I was looking like Soulja Boy in the early 2010s, then who knows? I might have been robbed by now. While Axe might have once just hired their beefiest friends from high school to protect him, nowadays cybersecurity and physical safety have meshed into a more complicated job for bodyguards. Rappers have the highest risk of anyone in the entertainment industry, and they have the worst security, said Kent Moyer, chief executive of the World Protection Group, a private security firm in Beverly Hills. They can't get out of the mindset of just using their 6'10", 300-pound bodyguard. Bad guys are getting pretty smart at doing surveillance, and you can only counter that through training. He's not surprised that social media may have played a role in the deaths of Pop Smoke and Memphis, Tennessee rapper Young Dolph, who was killed outside a bakery there that he had recently posted about on Instagram. So we're going to stop there. But that was a fantastic article talking about one of the biggest issues that modern day rappers have to deal with. And even, man, this isn't new, going back to Biggie and Tupac and Big L. Who was the other guy? Scott LaRock. This isn't new, but I feel like, to me, it seems like rappers being robbed and murdered has quadrupled since the 90s, and especially now. It's just every month or every 2 or 3 months, there's at least a B-list or A-list rapper getting killed or getting shot at. It's just it's this constant thing, and I'm glad that this guy was specific. He said especially black artists, and it's true. There's something about our melanin. It attracts demonic energy. You don't see white hip hop artists. You don't even see that very often. Like a white rapper getting killed. The last white rapper I heard getting killed was in like Sweden or some shit like that. But it's something about being black. It's something about being in the hip hop game, being a hip hop rap R&B artist. It attracts negativity. But I do believe that some of it is in the type of music you make too, because when you look at it, a lot of these rappers who end up getting shot and killed, they make gangster music or thug type music. They rap a lot about guns and violence and being gang affiliated, selling drugs. You don't really see a lot of Tyler, the Creators, getting shot and killed. Earl Sweatshirt type rappers, um, uh, Post Malone, Eminem's. You don't see a lot of Lupe Fiasco. You don't see those types of rappers ending up in these situations. It seems like there is a specific type of negativity that gangster rappers or thug hard rappers tend to attract. Maybe it's just it's in the power of the sound and the vibration that you put out though. And that's why I'm very cautious in the type of music that I make. You know, I'm making a mixtape called Drill Music, but that's based on the anime Gurren Lagann, and that's obvious. It's a play on words. It's not about being a killer or anything. I'm just having fun rapping about one of my favorite genres of anime. But even in those songs, I'm careful about how I talk about and express like the violence in it. Not a thug or a felon, but we bang like a gang, right? I'm not a thug. I'm not a felon. I'm just throwing it out there, right? I ain't running up on motherfuckers, killing them for no reason, that. So even when I talk about violence, I'm very particular about how I talk about those types of subjects, because it does seem like the type of music you make, you tend to attract that kind of energy in one way or another. But it's tragic what happened to PnB. Rest in peace, but we gotta move smart. We gotta move differently, and we got every day, man. You gotta just wake up and be on your P's and Q's, because it can happen to anyone, famous or not, rapper or not. But let's be real, black rapper, male, man, you are in the crosshairs. You are in the crosshairs. You got to be militant minded. You have to really be ready, because the wolves out there. They're broke, they're hungry, and like Bootsy said, man, a lot of these guys, they're just hypnotized with hatred. They're frustrated. They don't have any good sense about themselves. Their sense of morality and character is all screwed up, and they just don't give a fuck. Anybody that would do these ridiculously foolish robberies and criminal activities, broad daylight, no mask and shit like this, I mean, that's hatred. That's not just a desperation for money and resources. That's hate. That's frustration. That's bitterness. And that's even scarier than the guy who just needs it, but wants to also protect himself and get away with it. The scariest criminal is the one that's motivated by frustration and bitterness and hatred, not by greed, but by hatred. And that's the scariest motherfucker, because he don't care. He does not care. I have to take your life. No matter what, I have to take your life. That's the scariest motherfucker, because he got no sense of self-preservation. It's kamikaze. It's kamikaze. And when you're in kamikaze mode, you can get anybody. If that's your mindset, you can get anybody. If you're the only one you probably couldn't get is the president or something like that. But as far as like an artist, if you're in that kamikaze mindset, Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Jay-Z, they'll get you. They'll get you. Those are the scariest ones. So you have to be careful. You have to appreciate your life, value your life, and just practice safety. I know even right now, one thing that I'm making sure I make a priority is just looking up personal safety and security. How to better protect your home and how to set up different defenses, reinforce your doors and stuff like that. Like that's what I'm on right now. But just to all my fans out there, all my people out there, just make sure that you research and invest in your security. Invest in the security of your home. Invest in the security of yourself and your family and everything that you love, man. Because all those things are very valuable, and it's our job to protect them. So I hope you guys enjoyed that news segment. Next, we're gonna go to the OC, and then the main topic, the main topic, and then it's gonna be a great night, man. So make sure you guys stay tuned. So.
something just ahead that's not the norm. But now too long in the storm, I feel so weak, I feel forlorn. A rundown shack with the curtains torn, overgrown with moss and vining thorns. But it's not enough to earn my scorn. Sore sight for sure, but I bet it's warm.
Crack the door just a little bit as I peek behind to get the feel of it. It seems safe to go inside just a little while so I can drive. Rain splatters, a tin roof. Just how long this has been out of use? But you still unknown as I start to sleuth. What's the story here? Who knows the truth? Winds rattle, loose panes. I'm battered but I'm not insane. Pictures hang in crooked frames. Eyes look at me like they know my name, and I can't help but feel the same. Who are these faces of supposed fame? My veins are ice as the door shuts bang. Fireplace comes to light with flames. Me to come forth, and I'm drawn in by some strange force, and I can feel that my blood is coursing. I know my skin's as pale as porcelain, drawn so close I think I'll get forced exposed to the flames. I can feel scorching, searing, torching. This is torturing. Still don't know how I've earned this misfortune. Mystified by the flames, maybe I should step inside. I don't know why they catch my eye. I don't know why I came inside. Hypnotized, I stand aside. Sparks and coals start to fly. What happens next I can't deny. Simply don't believe my eyes. Flames set forth across the floor as I try to make a run for the door. I don't know what's still left in store, but I'm scrambling deft on all fours. Outside, rain still pours, but I've got a lot on my plate for sure. Why did I fall for this allure? Why am I pulled by some strange force? I can't escape, I can't just hide. The flames engulf me as I ride. Smoking fire cloud my eyes. It's at this point I realize what will be my true demise. I feel my skin crystallize. Towards the wall I start to rise, taken as another prize.
Where did my heart go? Drowned in the shoreline. Where did my head go? I cannot find it. What are you up to tonight, girl? At least reply. Can't recall the last time I felt like this. Don't recall the warning signs, but now I can ride this, but I won't anymore. Where did my heart go? Drowned in the shoreline. Where did my head go? I cannot find it. What are you up to tonight, girl? At least reply. Can't recall the last time I felt like this. Don't recall the warning signs, but now I can ride this, but I won't anymore. Goodbye, this is goodbye.
time. Not long ago. I'm being dead serious. It was like yesterday. It's not that usual exaggeration. I mean the words that I say, and that's something you can understand. I mean the words that I say. Can you believe that? I mean the words that I say. Can you believe that? I mean the words that I say. Can you believe that? She says, I don't think it'll snow no more. The most of his problems point of view. The least of all from his.
Okay, so we are back, and as I said before, today's episode is called Trap Theory. We're going to be talking about traps, the trap fetish, sexuality, and things of that nature. I'm pretty sure you guys know, like, I consider myself a fan of the trap porn genre, trannies and all that shit. It's no big secret with me. I've talked about it several times. We got the song Trap House. I stay in the trap like I'm fucking Bailey J, right? That's that whole thing. But you know, the whole trap, being a fan of the trap fetish, the trap genre, it's a very interesting thing as far as the different topics pertaining to it. Especially when you look at like, you got things like the transsexual movement. You have the guys like myself who indulge in the pornography and fans of it, and different things like that. And it's like, I know years ago there was always like that big debate, are traps gay, and that whole thing, the legendary debate. So it's a very interesting genre of pornography to kind of dive into. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it, because one thing that you notice with a lot of guys who may like traps or trannies, like, there's always like this confusion over like their sexuality, right? Is it gay? Is it straight? Is it bi? Is it this? Is it that? Is it pan? Right? What's the other one? Hetero, flexible, all kinds of shit. And that's why I really wanted to talk about it. It's a lot of interesting aspects to it. And I went through a lot of that myself. And so, and even though in the end, I pretty much decided not to take it further beyond just indulging in the pornography, and I'll talk about that later. I've still learned so much and about sexuality and that sort of like gray area between straight and gay, just looking into being a fan of the genre and participating in these conversations with guys online and shit like that. So it's very fascinating when you dive into it. So that's basically going to be the topic that's basically be the topic for this episode. So one thing I wanted to kind of dive into, because again, there was always this big debate, are traps gay and all that shit. And I think there's a reasonable explanation why a lot of guys who are trap fans or guys who indulge in trap or tranny pornography tend to identify more so as straight in the first place. I think on the surface, you might assume that it's just denial, it's repression or some shit like that. But I think it actually makes sense. To a certain degree. Now, of course, sometimes it's a stepping stone to going full blown gay. But I do think that for some guys, when you look at the progression of how their sexuality evolves over the years, it makes sense. And so one thing that you have to understand about guys who, well, at least some guys who are into trap porn or traps or tranny porn and whatnot, is that most of these guys have never been attracted to men in a context outside of pornography. Like, I look at myself, for example, is my sexuality kind of evolved like it would for any normal guy, right? You're a kid and you don't really know much about sex. And then at some point you start to kind of realize, oh, girls exist, right? And then you start to get crushes and shit like that. Like, I can remember my first crush was on a girl named Starvanda when I was in second grade. And then going to third, it was Melisha and Destiny and then fourth, fifth and whatnot. So as a kid, as a teenager, I'm only attracted to women. And then I discover pornography. And when I discover pornography, my mindset is I want to see everything, right? Like, I don't give a fuck. I just want this. I just want to see any and everything. And I believe that I might have gotten into tranny porn or transsexual porn as early as like 14 or 15. And at the time, I didn't really think much of it, because outside of the context of pornography, I was never attracted to guys. You know, I would look at some tranny shit. I wasn't big into it when I was like 14 and 15. It wasn't until I was like around 20, my early 20s, late teens. That's when I was like, oh, this is my shit. But then I just kind of looked at it more so as just like I just wanted to see all the freaky shit, right? That was more so what it was. 2 girls, 1 cup, period, blood, sex, right? But I never thought about it in terms of like how it related to my actual sexuality, because outside of that, I was only attracted to women. And so when you look at like us, and this is something that you see a lot of guys who are into this particular fetish. This is something that you see a lot of these guys say, right? Like, well, yeah, I like traps, I like tranny porn, but you know, if I go to the mall, I'm not like looking at dudes. I'm not checking out dudes the way I'm looking at women. And so when you look at that aspect of it, for example, I think it's only natural that you're going to, by default, identify more with being heterosexual, because when it really matters, which is when you're around people, when you're around men and women, you only feel attracted to women. And it's not going to really enter into your mind that you might be gay or bisexual unless you feel attraction towards men in real life the way that you feel towards women. And I think that's where a lot of that confusion came from, is that a lot of these guys didn't really develop any sort of homosexual interest until they discovered transsexual porn or trap porn or something like that. And I think, of course, the other main reason is that, you know, most of these guys are attracted to women more or less, right? And if you're attracted to women, you're not going to think that you're gay. You might be bi, but even then, like I said before, you're not, it's not like you're crushing on your best friend or the guys that you go to school with. And it's so funny to me when I look back. I mean, damn, I've been jacking off. I've been looking at this shit for the longest time, but especially when I was in school, I never once thought of it and how it related to my sexuality, because none of that shit mattered once I walked away from the computer, right? I would go to school and I just felt like a normal heterosexual young boy crushing on crushing on all the pretty girls that don't like me, right? Just normal shit. And I think the other thing too, though, is that more specifically, the guy, like, okay, so obviously traps are trannies are men, traps are guys, right? Now, of course, that's a whole debate in of itself. What's a woman? Oh, you're not being progressive. But for the sake of argument, right? Traps, trannies, femboys, all that, these are guys, right? But more specifically, the guys that trap fans tend to be attracted to or into are very feminine. And now, this depends on where you live. This depends on where you live, obviously. If you're in San Francisco, maybe you have a different outlook. But I know where I'm from, and I would assume where most guys are at. You're not gonna see a lot of transsexuals just walking around. You're not gonna see a lot of like. There's not gonna be a sizable femboy population at your high school. There's not gonna be. Again, this is. Maybe I don't get out much, but I'm assuming, I know that wasn't my experience, but I'm assuming that most guys, you simply don't run into that type of male in your everyday life. You're not going to see a cute feminine guy very often. And because I know personally, whenever I saw, because don't get me wrong, I've seen like I've seen a tranny in real life every now and then. But it was usually like the RuPaul drag queen type, not the Ella Hollywood, not the Ella Hollywood Sue Lightning type, semi passable cute type, right? Like, you know, that's a man, right? Not attractive at all. And I think when you look at all these factors, it does kind of make sense why a lot of these guys tend to identify more with being heterosexual, even if in reality, you know, it's more than fair to consider them bisexual. Like, because regardless, you look, a penis, right? If it has a penis, it's a male. If it's a male, it's gay. You know, that's all logical. But when you look at the specifics of what these guys say as far as like their experiences and the difference between like what they like as far as pornography and how they feel and what they're attracted to, you know, outside of pornography, when it comes to reality, when they're at work or just, you know, around men and women, I think it's understandable why they tend to identify that way in the first place. But I think people kind of have this idea that if you like trap porn, then it should be like an instant, aha, I'm gay and I'm gonna fuck guys now. And I think that's where people kind of get it fucked up, is that they think that it's gonna just instantly kind of send you down that path of fucking dudes. But when you completely disregard like everything leading up to that, then that's what you might think. But you got to understand, it's like, it's no different from like any other genre of like weird taboo fetish porn that you might get into, right? It's like, I'm sure a lot of guys look at gangbang porn, right? But you're not going to look at gangbang porn and then instantly be like, okay, well now I'm about to get with 5 dudes and we're gonna just run a train on this girl. Like, it's not that simple. Or you're not going to look at cuck porn and instantly be like, okay, I'm going to fuck some guy's wife, or I'm going to let somebody fuck my wife. When you look at hentai in particular, right? Like, I'm just keeping it a buck. This might make me sound like a crazy psycho, but I like the rape blackmail genre within like hentai, right? I know it's dark shit, sue me, right? But I don't look at that and then think, okay, well now I got to go rape a bitch, right? It's like, in the context of pornography, weird, taboo, different fetishy shit, like, it hits different. It hits hard, but it's not like you get into it and it's like, voila, I got to go do that in reality. And I think that's what a lot of guys who are in the traps, that's kind of their experience too. It's not like you're going to get into it and just instantly, okay, now I got to fuck dudes. Now, for a lot of guys, that's the first step. Don't get me wrong. Like, that's step one, and then step, right. It progresses from there. But then for other guys, it is what it is. It's just another weird, fun thing to masturbate to. And I think too, it's I guess you could say it's kind of like when you look at the good and evil. I'm sure you guys have seen like the morality traits, or what is it? The morality, whatchamacallit, you know, the good, neutral good, evil, chaotic evil, lawful evil, all that. Basically kind of breaking down morality into like different categories and whatnot. And I think that when it comes to sexuality, I think sexuality kind of works in a similar way. And I think when you look at guys who are in the traps, right? Now, they will be considered bisexual, but I think overall, because of the specifics of their preferences, they tend to lean closer towards being straight, even though technically they're bisexual. When you look at the types of guys they might tend to be attracted to, the frequency or really lack of attraction to like normal guys, or maybe there's no attraction to guys outside of that particular fetish. Again, I think you might look, you're not straight, but you're so close to it that you can't help but feel that way, right? It's like, if you take me, I mean, look, for all the gay shit that I masturbated to, right? If you take me now I'm Mr. Bisexual now, right? You take me and you put me with a straight guy, and then we go to the club together. It's not like I'm gonna be like, well, I like those girls, but then I like these dudes over here. Like, more than likely, my experience as far as like who I'm attracted to is gonna be very similar to him. We're probably like a lot of the same women, And I seriously, in fact, I can almost guarantee you, unless it's specifically like a femboy club or something like that, that I'm not going to see any guys that I'm attracted to. And that's just, and when you look at it like that, again, when your experience is so close to, when your real life experiences are so similar to that of a heterosexual male, in that whenever you go out to places, whenever you're around people, you exclusively feel attracted to women, then I think it's only natural that you tend to identify more with being straight than being bisexual. Even if technically you are bisexual, you're just gonna feel that way. You're just gonna feel more straight than gay if your preferences lean so heavily more towards women, especially if you've never actually had like a crush or felt attraction to a guy in real life. And but one thing I will say though is that, again, I got into it when I was around 15, 16 or something like that. And I never really thought much about it as far as my sexuality until I was in like my early 20s, because that's when the whole "are traps gay" debates were just flying all over the place. And so that's when I started to really kind of reflect and think about, maybe this is maybe this is an option for me, right? But and to be honest, I was kind of excited about it too, because my thing is just this, I've never been the type of guy that's like homophobic at all. Growing up, when I was growing up, now the whole pride thing was not like it is now. Like now it's like it's taken over. It's on a whole different level. But when I was growing up, it was there. I was aware of gay people like Elton John and who's that news guy? Anderson Cooper. I would watch the Real World, and they would always have a gay guy up there or something like that. And even growing up, I grew up, there was, there's always like one or two gay, like obvious gay dudes who are like really feminine or something like that. Or you assume they're gay because they're feminine. Like there was always, there was always like some type of gay presence that I was aware of. And again, when I was growing up, I recognized two things. One, there was still like this kind of making fun of people for being gay. Don't get me wrong, like I definitely saw that. I still see that to this day, really. But at the same time, I was also seeing the sort of the slow rise of the LGBT movement and maybe this might sound derogatory, but the rainbow community. But the thing that always stood out to me was just this basic idea that, you should not judge people for their sexuality. It's not right. If somebody is gay or bisexual or a lesbian, hey, that's cool. That's whatever. And, I took to that. I believed in that growing up. So when I get to my early 20s and I'm kind of going through a bi-curious phase, I'm ready to go. Right? I'm ready and willing. But the thing is though, before my early 20s, and this is kind of weird when I look back at it, but like I said, it was just like it was a porn thing. It was a fetish for me. It was just some weird shit I wanted to masturbate to, but it was not something that I ever thought could be a reality to me as far as like actually dating a tranny or fucking one. But it seemed like when I was in my early 20s, there was like this huge boom in not just like tranny porn, but it's like they were more visible now on the internet. Maybe I'm sure some of you guys can kind of corroborate what I probably fucked that word up. Corroborate what I'm saying, but I swear it seems like during that time of my life there was just this this boom as far as like the presence of transsexual. And so now, the object of my fetish was now like out in the open and available to, and well, I won't say available, but it was there. And so now I had to actually think about, hey, is this an option for me? Right? And I would say that was probably the one time in my life where I was actually like would have been open to like hooking up with a guy or a trap or something like that. But obviously now that's not the case. But I'll talk about that later. But that was probably like the one time where I was like, okay, well, you know, this might be an option for me. And certainly I think for some guys who are into traps, it starts there. And then you say, oh, wait, maybe I can bang one. Then maybe I can date one. And then, you know, who knows? Like for every guy, it's different as far as like how much they'll choose to engage with that particular option. Right. I mean, I've heard about guys who, you know, they went from wanting to fuck the trap to being the trap, being fucked. Right. Guys who are, you know, who have girlfriends and have been in multiple relationships. But every now and then, look, I'm trying to get my dick sucked by a trap or a tranny or some shit. Right. So it tends to manifest itself differently for every guy. But one thing that I see that's very common within this fetish is that guys who like traps and trannies tend to be on that borderline, that like this strange area between like straight and gay, right? Because it's like you don't have a significant attraction to the average guys, and you have what would be considered like a normal amount of attraction towards women. And the specific type of guy that you might like is very feminine, presents themselves like women. So I think it's a very unique place to be on as far as like the sexuality spectrum. But I think one of the things that did bother me though, because I never had an issue as far as like, you know, being open to the possibility of being bisexual or something like that. Because again, I don't have a homophobic body. I don't have a homophobic bone in my body. So for me, look, if that's what it is, then hey, fuck it, let's go. But I think that the issue with me was always the label, right? Like I've always been comfortable with what I like. Like I've never had an issue with it. I'm cool with it. It's just, to me, it's nothing, right? But it's the label that I think always bothered me. And the reason why, and especially now that I'm certain that I'm not interested in going beyond the fetish, right? Taking it beyond pornography. I'm not interested in fucking or dating guys, even if I would be considered bisexual for liking trannies and trap porn and whatnot. But the thing is, when you label yourself as bisexual or really whatever you label yourself as, that's what people are going to assume that you're into as far as like dating and having sex, right? If you say, okay, I'm heterosexual, people assume that you're exclusively interested in dating and having sex with women, right? If you say that you're gay, then people assume that, okay, well, he's exclusively interested in dating and having sex with men. If you say you're bisexual, like, look, I'm bisexual, people they're going to naturally assume that, okay, well, he fucks guys and girls. Whether they are tolerant of it or not is not the issue, but they are going to definitely assume that, hey, if you say you're bisexual, then that means you're open to dating and having sex with men. And I think that was always my issue, because once I was certain that I didn't want to go down that path, you know, it's not like all of a sudden I'm straight, right? Because I can still be considered bisexual just based on my pornography interests. And just because I choose not to fuck dudes doesn't mean that I couldn't, right? But the thing is, when you're not really interested in dating or having sex with guys or traps or anything of that nature, yet you're still expected to carry that label, obviously that's not very convenient. And that's why I've never really made a big deal about it. That's why you don't see me going around calling myself bisexual or anything like that, because, you know, I try not to give people the wrong idea. You know, it's typically whenever I talk about my sexuality, it's in a format like this where I can lay everything out on the table. You know, I've talked about this before, on even as far back as like how to be a neat. I had when I did the episode on, I think, pornography or something like that, like, and I've talked about this on the Discord and whatnot. And what I realized though was that, you know, when I explain my sexuality, when I explain my preferences, most of you guys tend to understand. So for some reason, most of you guys tend to understand it and where I'm coming from. But I think that's because I'm so transparent in the first place. But, just because of the fact that I'm not actually interested in, making my fetish a reality, that's why I don't go around calling myself bi or waving a fucking, rainbow flag around and shit like that. And like, here's the perfect example of what I'm talking about though. Like, so I like traps. I like trannies, that makes me a fag, right? So technically I'll be considered bisexual because I like girls. So let's say that I go on a dating app, for example, right? Now remember, I'm bisexual. So I go on a dating app and I put my sexuality down as bisexual. Just as an example, right? Now, what's gonna happen if I do that? I'm gonna get guys trying to message me or talk to me. If it's Tinder, then I'm gonna get guys swiping right on me, even when I'm not interested in dating or having sex with them at all. And so I think that's the perfect example of why it's very inconvenient to label yourself bi, or really anything that's not, accurate to or completely accurate to what your preferences are. And that's really why, again, I don't throw that label around. I'd rather just say, look, I like tranny porn, I like traps and shit like that. But as far as actually having sex, if I do ever date and have sex, I would prefer it be only exclusively with women. That's my preference. But to be honest, like, I feel silly calling myself bisexual. I feel silly calling myself straight, to be honest. But really, I don't think any of the labels really accurately fit me. That's why I don't use them for the most part. Again, technically I'll be considered bisexual and that's fine, but still it's not an accurate expression of what my intentions are. It's not an accurate expression of what I'm attracted to. Because you might think bisexual, he likes normal guys. I've never been attracted to normal, average, masculine or regular dudes. My thing has always been, trannies and traps. And even then I'm like, right? Man, I swear, I be watching that shit sometimes. And don't get me wrong, that shit is hot like fire, but it's magic too, it's angles, it's makeup. It's like, I remember I was watching one video the other week and it was like, I'm into it. Like, I'm like, oh, this is hot. This is some nasty shit. I'm into it, right? And then the trap gets up and they're changing position and I look at his butt and it's so flat. And I was like, damn, like he got like just and that's what I'm saying though, but the way it was filmed in the previous position, it made him look like he had like a more hourglass feminine shape. But when I saw him in movement and transitioning to the other position, I could see clearly that it was just a normal, like basically like boy body. And I kind of had that moment of like, oh God, right? That moment of being turned off. But really a lot of it is mental. You kind of gotta, how do they call it? It's like you gotta suspend your disbelief. You gotta ignore the man hands. You gotta ignore the man hands and shit like that. You gotta ignore the Adam's apple. Just phase all that out of your mind. Focus on like what's what you're actually attracted to, right? But the thing is, hold on, let me get a sip of water. I think men struggling with their sexuality, that's a tale as old as time, right? And I know women go through this as well, but I think that most people would agree with me in that I think men struggle the most with it. Like if you're not 100% straight, whether you're a little bi or half and half, mostly gay, I think guys struggle with it the most. I think for men, it can be the toughest to come to terms with your sexuality if you're not 100% straight. And I think for me, again, it was an easy transition because I'm not attached to right. I have no attachment to any sexuality, straight, gay. I don't value shit like that anyway. So I don't care. I don't care what I am. Right. It is what it is. But I think for most guys, for a lot of guys, you know, you see it very often that it can be a very difficult thing to come to terms with. And you know, I think in particular, right, with guys who like traps, it can be particularly confusing because you're in a very unique place on the sexuality spectrum. Because you know how it is with guys. It's like male sexuality is very, or perceived as being very black and white. You're either heterosexual or you're a faggot. Like it's that simple, really. Like let's be real. Like this, and just to illustrate my point, right? Let's say that I identified as gay, right? Like, okay, I identify as homosexual gay, but I have sex with women too, right? Just whatever. Like every now and then I fuck a pussy girl, not a dick girl, but a girl with a pussy, right? And I talk about it. Yeah, every now and then I do it, whatever. People are not going to twist my arm trying to convince me that I'm actually bisexual. Like people don't care about the difference between being bisexual and gay. It's all about the difference between heterosexual and anything else, right? And I think with guys who like traps, you're in this borderline area where it's like you don't really fit in with the heterosexual world because you like traps or trannies, but you don't necessarily fit in with the gay world either because you don't have that same like intense attraction towards like most guys, right? So you're kind of in this weird space, and it kind of really works itself out when you look at it because, and maybe this is just something that you have to you see just looking at the porn and the culture and whatnot, but guys who are into trannies and traps tend to operate in a different way anyway. Like they tend to specifically go after that type of guy, that type of person that they're attracted to. They tend to not make a big deal out of their sexuality. They tend to keep on the down low, right? They you know, hook up with a tranny on Craigslist or something like that, or however the fuck you meet up with them. They do their thing and they keep it moving. They might have girlfriends or a wife on the side, but you know, they just kind of indulge on the side basically. But again, I think it's a awkward place to be on in the sexuality spectrum because you don't really fit in the two extremes. I mean, you can blend in as far as like within the heterosexual world, right? Because you do like girls. So you can blend in, but I think once you reveal the fact that you like trannies or traps or something like that, that's definitely going to alienate you somewhat. And cause I know, I believe that one of my subscribers, he talked about it. Like he hooked up with a femboy or a trap or something like that one time, or a transsexual, and he told his friends, and then he noticed there was all of a sudden, you know, they weren't treating him the same and shit like that, right? But you know, when you do like girls, you have that option of kind of keeping it to yourself. But then even I've noticed another thing too, like on the gay side of it, when they look at guys who are into transsexuals or even the transsexuals themselves, they tend to not like guys who specifically seek them out. They call them chasers, right? They call them tranny chasers. They don't like guys who well, for them, again, I'm not gonna say they all don't like it, right? Because that's kind of what you have to deal with. You have to deal with guys who like it. But I noticed that transsexuals tend to have this thing about guys who specifically seek them out. You know, their dream is to get the guy that doesn't have a fetish for them, right? They want the guy that just sees them as being a woman, a guy that was just taken in by their feminine beauty, and not a guy who already has a fetish for transsexuals in the first place. But I digress. So. But if I had to give any advice as far as like, you know, coming to terms with your sexuality, especially as guys who like traps and whatnot, because again, we're in this weird zone. I think the main thing is you kind of have to reverse engineer your sexuality. And what I mean by that is I think guys worry too much about the label. I think guys worry too much about trying to label themselves. And so when I say reverse engineer your sexuality, what I mean is don't look at it like, okay, I'm this, so what does that mean? look at the specifics of what you like. Look at the specifics of what you're attracted to and what your tendencies are as far as your sexuality. What does your sexuality mean to you? Right? I think because what I realized, like I said before, my issue was always, it was the label. I didn't care about what I liked. I knew what I liked. I was comfortable with my like, but I just felt like the labels didn't really fit me. But you're expected to kind of jam yourself into one of the major labels, regardless of if it implies things about you that aren't true. So once I stopped looking at it as far as like putting the label first and just focusing on the specifics of what I like what I'm attracted to, what I like, why I like it, and also like what I'm actually willing to do in reality, that's when I was more, at that point, I didn't really care anymore, right? Because I realized like, my issue was always with the label, not with what I like, right? I'm cool with what I like. I just want to be able to accurately express what I like without people getting the wrong idea. I don't want to go around calling myself bi and imply that I'm ready to start fucking dudes now. And, I think another thing too, I think guys are too attached to the straight label too. I think that, and look, I get it, right? I completely understand. It's so inconvenient. It's so awkward when you're predominantly attracted to women. Maybe you have like this side thing for dudes. You like, again, traps and trannies aren't necessarily the most easy thing to find. It's not necessarily easy to find. Well, nowadays, I don't know. It's different now, but again, just depending on your level of interest in it, right? To you, it might just be a porn thing, but it doesn't matter. If you like the porn, you're gonna be considered at least bisexual, and so you got to kind of deal with that. And also, it's a status thing too, because the simple fact is, as a man, when you're anything less than heterosexual, people are going to look at you different. People are going to look at you as being less than a man. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's the reality of it, like, why is it that so many people were accusing Kevin Samuels of being gay? Like, remember, rest in peace. I hate the mic. Rest in peace. But, it was not uncommon for people to accuse Kevin Samuels of being gay. Why was that? Because he had these like subtle feminine traits, not feminine traits, but his mannerisms were just slightly feminine, right? And what that tells you though is that people connect homosexuality and being gay with being feminine, not being masculine. So they see you as being, so it's a lot of shit that comes with it on the social level. Don't even get me started on girls. Don't even get me started on girls, man. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, and this is a whole nother Botcast for the future, but a lot of women, they hate bisexual men. Doesn't even matter whether you're top or bottom, whether you just like trap porn, I don't care. Like, once you get identified as that, oh my, so many women are going to lose attraction for you. Like, it's just, oh man, it's going to close a lot of doors. I suggest you, God, that's a whole different rabbit hole right there. That's a whole nother episode of the podcast. I'm definitely going to cover that. But that's an interesting rabbit hole right there. But yeah. And other thing too is like, you don't have to fuck dudes. that's the other thing. Like, just because you like traps, or maybe you like tranny porn, or whatever the fuck, maybe you like just straight up gay porn, right? Whatever, furry gay porn, I don't know. But you don't have to fuck dudes. Just because you like a particular type of pornography doesn't mean that you have to make it your reality. That doesn't mean that you got to go out and act on it, right? Just like any other form of pornography. Just because you like gangbang porn doesn't mean that you got to go participate in gangbangs. Just because you like furry porn doesn't mean you got to go fuck a dog. Like, you could be a girl with rape fantasies. Like, that's a thing. That doesn't mean you got to go out and try to get raped in a back alley somewhere. A lot of times the appeal of fantasy is being able to only deal with the aspects of it that appeal to us and none of the bad. But yeah, you can like traps and all that shit and not have to go out and fuck dudes. And I think the main thing is to just figure out what your boundaries are. You know, the worst part of it for me was when I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, you know, like that the line between fantasy and reality was so muddy because on one hand, I'm masturbating to all this gay shit, these, you know, sissy porn, sissy hypnos, just the whole line, right? All that shit. But then I go out and I'm only attracted to women. So obviously I'm going to be very like, oh, wait, what the fuck, right? But once I was clear in what I actually wanted to do or was willing to do, like, okay, well, look, I'm a fan of this porn. Like, I like, look, that's my shit. I like tranny porn. I like traps, right? That shit, it's cool to me. But that's what it is for me. It's a fetish. It's a porn fetish. Not to say like I couldn't if I wanted to, but I don't really want to. It's not, to me, it's not that important, right? I like the porn. I'm a fan of the porn, I should say. But it's not something that I feel like I have to go out and do. And I think once I realized that was the boundary for me, that's when I really felt the most comfortable with my sexuality. Because at least then I knew what I wanted to do. And so for me, it was never about, you know, not being comfortable with what I like, but just wanting to be certain of like where those boundaries begin and end as far as what I do and what I don't want to do. But I think that with the whole trap thing, it's harder because it's not like being into rape porn or something like that. Like you can masturbate to rape or blackmail, you know, non-consensual types of pornography. And you don't feel insecure about it because you know you wouldn't rape somebody, right? You know, like it's just a fantasy. But I think when you're talking about something that would be categorized as you know in the gay category as like traps and transsexual porn, that comes with the label. Like now you are that. Now you are gay. Now you are bi. And I think that you start to think that you have to kind of adhere to that label and start living that way, but you don't have to, right? You don't gotta fuck dudes just because you like trap porn. But if you want to, I'm not telling you not to. If you want to, hey man. But so why do we love trap porn right now? I'm speaking as a fan now. I'm speaking as a fan now because I see a lot of confusion about, you know, why guys might be into this particular type of pornography. I've seen guys say silly shit like, you know, why don't you just masturbate to regular dudes or something like that? Like, it was because, you know, we specifically want to see a guy who looks like a girl. Like that's the whole point. It's a specific fetish thing, like being into leather or, you know, smoking girls or having a brunette fit. I don't know, whatever. It's specifically it's about androgyny, right? The mixture of the feminine and the masculine to make something unique. But here's the best way I'll describe it as far as like what it means to me. And I'm projecting here, right? But this is what it means to me. And to me, what makes trap porn so hot is that it's a powerful combination. It's the taboo of homosexuality, but with the aesthetic of heterosexuality. Because let me tell you, man, again, when I was a teenager getting into pornography, again, I didn't give a fuck. I'm trying to look at everything. And if I liked something, I would get into it. If I didn't, whatever. And, you know, when you're as into pornography as I am, especially when you start lingering around like spaces where you're going to find transsexual porn and trap porn, you're going to see some regular gay shit every now and then. And let me tell you, I don't like that shit. And just being frank, it's really visually, it's disgusting to me. And that's not to offend anyone who's into it. That's just my personal preference. I don't like regular gay shit with just, you know, big muscly men banging away, you know, like cowboys, Brokeback Mountain, you know, big buff men just banging away. It's such a turnoff. Like it just like instantly, like I just zone out, right? But when you take one of those guys and you make him look like a girl, or just make him, you know, significantly more feminine. Doesn't even have to be necessarily like transsexual. It could be just very feminine. You know, they got the whole femboy twink thing, right? Just sufficiently feminine. It completely flips the vibe of the scene or the pornography for me. And like I said, it's gay, it's homosexuality, but it looks like heterosexuality as far as the balance of masculine and feminine. And to me, that's what makes it so hot. It's like you get the taboo of homosexuality without the gross aesthetic, right? Because again, that's just my opinion, right? If you like Bauer and Bears, that's your thing, whatever. But to me, I don't like that shit. And I think a lot of guys who like traps are the same way. And so the issue is not homosexuality, it's the way it looks. It's the fact that guys aren't attractive. If you make a guy attractive by making him look like a woman or making him look girly, suddenly homosexuality is not a big issue. It's the aesthetic of the masculine and the masculine not being visually appealing. When you make it masculine and feminine, then it becomes more appealing. And that's the best way I can describe the appeal of trap porn. And also, again, what makes it different from heterosexual porn is obvious that it's the taboo of it's still gay. It's the taboo of homosexuality, but it looks good now, right? I guess if I had to compare it to something, right? It's like imagine you're trying to get into drinking alcohol, right? But you can't stand the taste, like you hate the bitter, harsh taste of alcohol. But then you discover like those cute fruity drinks, right? That taste like soda and Kool-Aid, you know, mixing Jolly Ranchers and shit with the alcohol. And it's like, oh wait, okay, now I can get into it. It's kind of like that, right? It's like, it's still alcohol, but you've adjusted it. You've changed you've altered the taste to suit what you like. Now you can consume it. And I think that's really what made trap porn such a hot fetish to me, because again, homosexuality is a very taboo subject. That's a taboo sex act. I mean, biblically, is you going to hell for that shit. Like, it's some serious shit, right? But visually, it's unappealing. But when you alter the visual aspect of it and make it look heterosexual by making it masculine and feminine, that makes it more appealing, at least to me. And I think, I would argue that for a lot of guys who are into it, that's kind of what it is. But again, you know, the problem with normal gay porn is that, you know, two regular dudes banging is just visually unappealing. It's a turnoff. And I think, and here's another good example that I think perfectly illustrates what I'm talking about. Furry porn, right? You notice that a lot of people in the furry community, guys or girls who like furry porn. Now, again, I'm kind of on the outside looking in. So I don't know. I can't, right? I hope they're not out here straight fucking dogs. I know some of them are, but not, I would assume most of them are not. I assume Sonic Fox ain't fucking a dog on the low. I think it's just, you know, that's just his thing, right? But furry porn is a good example. Because one thing you will notice about furry porn is that you don't see a lot of it where it's just like a straight up dog fucking a normal dog. Like, you're not going to see a friender, rest in peace, like regular friender type dog humping a female bitch dog, right? That's not what you see. You see animals who have human body parts. They stand on two legs. They have fingers instead of paws. Now they might have a dragon dick or something, right? But depending on the artist, right? It's a very flexible genre, much like the trap genre, as far as like the mixture of the masculine and the feminine, and in the case of furry porn, the mixture of animal body parts and human body parts. I think the word for it is isn't it anthropomorphic or something like that? Let me just look it up real quick. It's gonna kill me if I don't. Let me see. Anthropomorphic. Anthropomorphic. I think that's it though. Relating, having human characteristics. Anthropomorphic bears and monkeys. That's the definition. Okay, but yeah, it's an anthropomorphic thing where normally animals would not be attractive to these people. The people who are into furry porn. Again, I'm making assumptions here. I'm hoping. Really, I don't care. I'm just joking. But look, whatever it is, your thing is your thing. But I think I'm willing to bet that most guys into furry porn don't go outside and want to fuck their dog. The appeal of furry porn is that you have the taboo of bestiality with the aesthetic of human, of a human, right? It's an animal, but it looks very human-like to the point of being attractive. And I think that's what furry porn and trap porn has in common, is I think it has a very similar appeal of something that's normally taboo and unattractive made attractive, and the taboo remains. And so it's a very powerful, exciting fetish to indulge in because it's taboo, but you can take it now because it's attractive, right? Most of these furries, they don't want to see a video of a horse fucking another horse. They want to see a horseman type, right? Like they want to see him on two legs with six-pack abs or some shit like that, right? And fingers and not hooves. But again, that's a messy, weird genre all around. But I noticed that this whole masculine feminine thing, this masculine feminine dynamic is even important when I look at lesbian porn. Like even with lesbian porn, I don't like stuff where it's just like two regular girls going at it. I want to see a more dominant girl, right? Of course, an attractive feminine girl with a girl who's also, feminine and girly, but one of them has to be like more dominant. One of them has to be like take control. Like I love like those lesbian videos where it's like this like more experienced lesbian who's like turning out the submissive, curious girl. I love shit like that, but it's the dynamic of the masculine and the feminine at play. And, feminine, like I'll put it like this, masculine, it's a no-go. It doesn't work for me, right? That's like banging two rocks against each other. Or it's like taking two keys and just flinging them against each other, right? But masculine and feminine goes together like a key to a lock. It goes together like shovel and dirt. Nintendo game cartridge and Nintendo, it clicks. It just clicks. Now, feminine is visually appealing, but it's not intense enough, right? And I think also, outside of that, for some guys, it's really just an extension of like the whole cock fetish thing. Like you see some guys who will say, I just like cock, but I'm not attracted to men's faces or bodies. And so obviously if that's your set of preferences, then you're going to like something like traps. I think that's why that's really the whole basis of the futanari genre of hentai, right? It's basically when you have a fetish for cock or dick or penis, whatever, but not the rest of the male form. And so you take the cock and you put it on a woman with breast. And futanari is different from traps in that it's not technically a male, it's just pretty much a woman who happens to have a penis, like literally a woman, a dick girl, right? But I think that it's all kind of in the same ballpark. But like I said, for some guys, it's just the extension of the whole cock fetish thing. And then I think also there's also the dominance and submissive aspect of it too. Like I've heard some guys say, look, I just like the idea of dominating a more submissive feminine male. It's a dominance thing where it's like what's more satisfying than to make another man your bitch, right? Like that's what it is. That's part of the appeal. And on the flip side, it's also a way for some guys to express like their more submissive side. Like maybe you want to be the trap, maybe you want to be the transsexual, and then in that case, you get to experience the unique the unique experience of putting yourself in the feminine role as opposed to being in the dominant male role of being the one who's fucking. So but I think now you're getting more into like the meta attraction aspect of it. Because even from like the submissive side of things, you'll see guys who say, I'm not really attracted to men in general, but look, I just want to suck dick, I just want to get fucked, or some shit like that, right? And another thing too, some guys, they just like the aspect of having like a feminine partner without having to deal with the female nature pretty much. I think when, during the time when I would say I was actually curious and willing to maybe potentially date a trap or something like that, that was really one of the reasons, to be honest with you, because it was like, to me, I kind of envision it as being like, okay, well, you get a cute something to fuck, right? It's not a girl, but look, it's cute. You get something cute to fuck without having to deal with like female bullshit, without having to deal with female nature. So I think that's probably the appeal of it too. The idea that, hey, I can have something cute to fuck without having to deal with the unique bullshit of dealing with women, And yeah, but what's fascinating about this to me is when you look throughout history, right? Because this isn't like some new thing. I think pornography is kind of pornography has definitely allowed a lot of guys to get into this fetish and discover the whole trap and tranny fetish and pornography genre and get into it. And how far you take it is up to you. But this isn't something that's new. Oftentimes you see people mention like in the Roman Empire, during the Roman days, they had there was this fascination with like feminine boys and whatnot. And in particular, when you look at like the earlier periods in Japan, for example, like one thing that I learned about was at the Japanese theaters. If you didn't know, in the Japanese theaters, there was a time, and I'm talking like not movie theater, but we're talking like before TVs and electricity and all this shit, right? But they had these theaters where actors would put on plays and whatnot. But one of the rules and customs was that only men were allowed to participate as far as being actors, right? So men had to play the roles of the women. Oh, excuse me. I get some water. Even I remember when I was playing Yakuza Like a Dragon, they were showing the I think one of the earliest scenes is showing one of the mafia bosses when he was a kid and how he was a theater actor and he was playing a woman, right? But that's not something that's unusual, because again, what part of the custom was that males played the female roles. And so naturally what they would do is they would get young feminine guys, put them in makeup, dress them like women, and make them play as women in these theaters. Now, of course, the men in the audience, some of them would develop an attraction for these young men. And some of these guys, from what I understand, they might have worked as like prostitutes on the side, escorts. They would get gifts and they would be, essentially asked out by men who would like fall in love with them and be attracted to them by seeing them, masquerade as women in these theaters. But, my whole point in saying that is that, this isn't like a new thing. Really, this surgence in interest in transsexuals and trap porn and whatnot, this is more so like a reawakening an ancient fetish that has really kind of been around for years and years and years. I just think that pornography just really exposed it to a much wider range of people to get into it if they're inclined to do so. But yeah, man, I'm a fan. I am a fan of trap porn. Like, to me, that shit is man, that shit is hot. It's yeah, that's my shit. But femboy butt, right? I still wouldn't fuck a dude. I wouldn't fuck a dude. I wouldn't, not a trap, not a tranny, male, female, male, female to male, male to female, none of that, right? So why though? Why wouldn't I fuck a dude? I think that's the golden question, right? Because again, like based on my sexual interest, based on my porn interest and whatnot, I could be considered bisexual, and that's fine, that's cool. But I still wouldn't fuck a dude. So why wouldn't I fuck a dude, right? So let me break that down. Because we're gonna get kind of deep here, right? Because this is gonna go into some interesting territory. But let me get a sip of water. Oh God, I spilled some on myself. Okay, so now the most obvious reason is overall most guys just are not attractive to me at all. And it's as crazy as it might sound. I mean, really, even now when I think about it, it's like sounds ridiculous, but with all the gay shit I've masturbated to, all the traps and the sissy hypno, the sissy porn and the whatever, the twinks and all that shit, I've never found myself attracted to a guy like in real life. I've never like gone to the mall and was like, oh, this dude is, man, like I'm just I gotta holler at this nigga, right? When I look back at going through school, all my crushes, all of my attractions were towards women. Like in reality, outside of pornography, all my attraction have been towards women. But that's not to say that I couldn't, right, fuck a dude or a trap or something like that. Like, dare I say I find it hard to believe that I couldn't enjoy at least getting my dick sucked by a cute tranny or something like that. Like, I could see myself like being like, okay, this is fun, right? So that's not to say like I couldn't, but I think that because the specific type of guy that I could potentially be into would have to be, very feminine and present themselves as a girl would for the most part, cross-dressing and all that shit. Like, that's not necessarily something that you're going to see out in the wild just on any given day, unless you're in like San Francisco or some shit like that, or you go to gay clubs or something like that. But just based on that, what I'm saying is like, just based on the numbers, it's not very likely that I'm going to find a guy that I'm going to be attracted to enough to want to date in the first place, right? And I think that even among traps, a lot of their appeal is based on smoke and mirrors. I remember that I remember there was a thread, and there was a I believe he was a cross-dresser or a trap or something like that, but he was roommates with Natalie Mars or something like that. And I never forget what he said, cause he was kind of breaking down what life was like over there. it was a wild shit he was talking about, but I'll never forget what he said. He said traps are just boys once the clothes come off. And what he was saying was like, once you take away the makeup and you take away the clothes and whatnot, for the most part, even with some of the more passable ones, they still rely heavily on the smoke and mirrors, the makeup and specific lighting and angles to make themselves look more feminine. I remember there was a transsexual on R9K named Pizza. And he would always upload pictures of himself, trying to look sexy and whatnot. And I give him credit. He was able to take some pretty decent pictures of himself and get a little small following of beta orbiters and whatnot. But then Eggman, shout out to Eggman, the OG. Somehow he got this guy on one of his live streams. And on the live stream, it was completely different. Like, you could just tell, look, this is a guy. I mean, the shoulders, just the overall bone structure was different. And he wasn't able to manipulate angles and lighting to make himself look more feminine. Like, this was a raw live stream. And again, stuff like that just lets you know that, the pornography that you see is not always the reality. And you got to understand, man, guys can be cute. Guys can do a lot as far as making themselves cute and whatnot, but a biological woman is feminine down to her bones. She is feminine down to her bone structure, her pheromones, the marrow in her bones. If you take a male to female transsexual and a biological woman and they die in the same spot, and then years later someone finds their bones, they're going to say, oh, here's a woman, here's a man. That's just what it is. A woman is feminine down to her bones. The femininity of a transsexual, whatever, is very much surface level. It simply cannot compete with the femininity of a woman. Now, don't get me wrong, like they can reach an impressive level, but there's a level cap there, right? If women can reach a femininity level of 100, a man can only reach about 40 or something like that. You can't. There's just no comparison, and nothing is more attractive to me than femininity. And if I'm gonna go for femininity, despite the fact that some guys are cute, I gotta go for that raw. I gotta go for that hardcore, man. I gotta go for the real deal. But again, as a fetish, it's fun and shit. So, and the other thing too is just that logistically, trying to date a trap just doesn't even make sense, because you got to think about it. The rarity of you're talking about guys who are going to be feminine and present themselves as such. So that means getting facial hair lasered off. That means shaving all the time or getting everything lasered off. That means dressing like a woman. That means talking like a woman. That means taking hormones or whatever. Right there, you're talking about a very small amount of men compared to the whole. And to make it even worse, you still gonna want to find somebody who maybe not necessarily passes, but does reach a significant level of femininity in themselves, and that's even rare. You got plenty of dudes cross dressing and doing all that shit, but the ones who would actually be the Ella Hollywoods, right? Like, that's kind of the standout. I'm not sure if he's transsexual. I think he like detransitioned or something. Like, he changed his porn name to like Gene or some shit like that. But before he detransitioned, like, he was the standard as far as like new transsexual porn actors, actresses, however you lean on this debate, right? But you're not gonna see too many like that. You're not gonna see, and even then, right? Like, just. I'm gonna just say he hasn't aged well, but that could be because of detransitioning. But even then, even as being like one of the top dogs in the game at a given time, even him, you can see the underlying masculinity and whatnot. So again, it's rare to find. It's gonna be hard to find a guy that can present himself as being sufficiently feminine. But then you're talking about supply and demand, though, because they're so rare. Don't get it twisted. These guys have a lot of orbiters, man. And I've heard some people describe them as the Stacys of the gay or bisexual world, and it's totally true. There is a special appeal to androgynous men, whether you're talking about everything from a twink to a full-blown male to female transsexual who identifies as women 24/7, right? There is just a special appeal to them, and they have a sizable audience who are just as willing to simp and beta bucks and pay pig for them as a lot of the attractive women that you see taking advantage of like OnlyFans and social media to do the same thing. So if you want to date one, then you kind of have to deal with the same bullshit of trying to date an attractive or a cute girl, as far as like having a lot of competition that you have to kind of fight through to get what you want. And so, you know, just don't make the mistake of thinking like, okay, well, it'll be easier to fuck a trap than well, really it would be, but it depends on what your standards are. I think overall, if your standards as far as femininity isn't too high, then yeah, you'll have an easier time probably finding one of them to fuck than a QT girl. But when you start talking about like dating and a serious relationship, I don't know. And then on top of that, a lot of them are also involved in sex work as well. And you know, that's obviously a no for me. And so here's a big one though. Here's a big one. STDs. Now, when I've always kind of loosely known about the connection between HIV and AIDS and the gay community, bisexual, MSM, whatever you want to call it. I've always kind of known about it. But when I really learned about it, I mean, looked into it, man, it's no joke. It's no joke. And I'm sure we're all aware of the HIV and AIDS epidemic of the 80s and 90s. There were a lot of gay and bisexual men and women who died from HIV and AIDS, but in particular men. It definitely affected men and the gay community more than just about any other demographic, I'm sure. And it was no joke. I mean, men were dying slow, miserable deaths, you know, just because of their sexual preferences. And it had to be a very scary time, you know, being in that era and wanting to engage and you know, basically have your fun. You know, you want to fuck, you want to have fun and fuck, go to the bathhouse and get laid, whatever, go to the club. But you know, that was a very serious and dangerous time to be gay and especially to be, you know, promiscuous and trying to have, you know, multiple sexual partners. And obviously now, you know, it's not the death sentence that you like. Boy, back in them days, you were dead. That was it, pretty much, as far as I understand. But now they got all types of pills and 1-a-day pills. They got PrEP, and you know, they got different ways to combat it. It's not what it was, but the simple fact is, it's still very prevalent amongst men who have sex with men, however you identify, right? I believe that 70% of new cases of HIV are from men who have sex with men. And going even deeper, Blacks and Latinos have higher rates than any other ethnicities. And it's not just HIV that affects the gay community at a disproportionate rate. Also, chlamydia, gonorrhea, HPV, syphilis, like there are several different STDs that just run rapid in the gay community. So, you know, if you make the decision that, you know, okay, I'm going to have sex with men, this is something that you're going to be exposing yourself to. And, you know, I'm not saying all this to scare people and whatnot, but your health is important. You know, your health should be the priority. And the simple fact is, if I were to decide, you know what, I'm gonna go out and bang some traps, I'm now in the crosshairs of all these diseases. Now, of course, you know, there are steps you can take to protect yourself, as far as, again, you got condoms and PrEP and whatnot. But look, man, it's easy to say what you should do, but when you in that situation, it's different. I put it like that. Like if avoiding STDs was as simple as just, you know, getting tested and being careful, it wouldn't be flying around the way that they are. And I know some people would say, okay, well, girls have STDs too, and that's true, but you have to still be cognizant of the difference between whatever path you are. Now, if I'm having sex with women, I'm still going to be at risk of catching STDs, but the fact is I'm going to be at less risk of catching STDs compared to if I was having sex with men, especially when you're talking about HIV and AIDS. And this isn't me just blowing smoke out of my ass, man. Like, you can go to the CDC website and verify everything that I'm saying. Like, this is no joke. They don't talk about this during Pride Month. They don't cover this. You see all these rainbows and men walking hand in hand, but they don't. This is an aspect of it that's still there in the shadows of this lifestyle of having sex with men, is that this is something that could affect you. And man, I remember I found this list of celebrities who died of HIV and AIDS, right? And I'm going through the list, and I noticed two things. One, most of them were men. Two, most of those men were either gay or bisexual. And you see stuff like that. And you guys know me, I'm not a big fan of sex to begin with, right? So when I see shit like that, I'm just being honest. Like, there is no way I would jeopardize my health just to engage in unnecessary sex acts. Like this wasn't the reason why I chose not to fuck dudes, but because really by the time I learned about all this, my mind was already made up. But this was like that nail in the coffin. Like, it was no longer just a lack of interest or overall attraction. Now I understood that if I were to, engage in this type of sexual activity, I'd be at a much greater risk as far as catching potentially deadly or debilitating diseases, incurable diseases. And I'm good on that. I'm good on that. And I think I can list specific reasons, like I already did, but overall, there isn't any point. That's really that's the main thing. Like, okay, I could fuck a dude, but for what? Like, what would I gain? What would I gain from going around and fucking dude? I don't see the point. I can see the appeal, but I can't see the point. And it makes me think back to, one of my core principles that I've always tried to live by, which is keep your vices to a minimum. You guys know I don't drink alcohol. The only drug that I've ever really indulged in was marijuana. I stay away from hard drugs. I don't smoke cigarettes, and even recently I quit eating pork. I make these little adjustments to my life, basically trying to cut out the bullshit. And if I don't feel like something is important to me, then regardless of if it's pleasurable or not, or if I could do it, then I'm probably just not going to engage with it at this point. And I think back to, I don't know if I told you guys about this, but I had this big epiphany when I was around 24 or 25, somewhere around that time. Yeah, I'm sure I talked about this before, but it's kind of important. And I was walking back from the mall and whatnot, and it was a bright sunny day. It was a beautiful day. It was very sunny. It was hot, and I was enjoying myself on this nice little stroll. And I was walking by the park, and I just had this moment of profound appreciation for life. And I believe that ever since then, I've just had this sense of what was important to me and what wasn't. And my whole, going my own way, MGTOW, herbivore male thing, before then, it was just something that I had an idea about. It was just something I was like, okay, like, should I, shouldn't I? I was still kind of wishy-washy about it. But definitely when I had that epiphany, that was when everything kind of came full circle. That was when I definitively knew that I did not need sex to be happy. That's when I definitively knew that sex just was not important to me. And ever since then, my outlook on sex has just been completely different. And so And remember what I said before, like when I was in my early 20s, that's when I was kind of going through the whole bi-curious phase, and then I kind of just lost interest. Then I had this epiphany, and the epiphany didn't just affect how I felt about, you know, my relationship with women. It also kind of closed the door as far as any potential of me potentially dating or fucking a dude, right? Like, I was like, again, what's the point? Like, I don't need that shit. And so that's really what it is for me. Like, if I had to sum it up, it's not something that's important to me enough to go out and do it. You know, it's like, and maybe you have to be into pornography to understand where I'm coming from. But if you're into pornography, I'm sure, and like really into it, maybe you have a lot of different fetishes and fantasies that you indulge in. But it's like, do you really feel the need to go out and do it? You know, like like I said before, if you masturbate to gangbang or cuck porn or furry porn, do you have to go out and do that shit? Or is it just something that's fun to masturbate to? And that's pretty much how I feel about it. You know, it's fun to masturbate to, but it's not something that's important enough to where I feel like I have to go out and do it. I don't feel like my happiness depends on me fucking dudes or some shit like that. And, but then you have to ask the question, like, okay, what about girls, right? Because if sex isn't important to me, why am I still willing to date and have sex with women? And I think if I'm just being completely honest, and I don't want to sound like a simp, you guys know 10 toes down, MGTOW, all the way, red pill, represent. But just being frank, there really is just something special about girls. I don't get it twisted. Look, I don't need to date women. I don't need to fuck women either. But there is just something special about girls. And like I was talking about earlier, I can remember my sexual awakening. You know, my first crush, Starvonda, second grade. And from then on, just accumulating all these different crushes and feeling attraction to so many different women. There is just this, women just have this special thing about them. Their energy is just, it's both comforting, scary, and exciting. They have this amazing energy about them, and guys just don't have that. Guys don't have that special something that girls do, right? Maybe I could fuck a dude. Maybe I could get my dick sucked by a trap. Maybe whatever, right? Maybe I could suck a dick, whatever. Maybe I could do all that shit. But guys don't have that thing, that magic. Not literally magic, but they don't have that magic that girls have. They don't have that thing where you see a girl who's attractive and you can't help but feel like your life would be better if you had her in your life. If you could make her your girlfriend, if you could make her your wife, if you could make whatever, however far you want to go, if you could just hook up with her. Women just have this special attractiveness about them that is just on a completely different level. And even as MGTOW out of my mind as I am, I still feel that. Even like the other week, maybe it was like a month ago, I say, I saw this girl in Food Lion. And normally I don't, I try to not look at girls. I try not to pay attention to them too much and whatnot. Cause again, I'm focused on my grind. I'm focused on my purpose. Right. Shout out to AMS. But, I try to stay focused in my own zone and shit. But I thought I knew her. I thought she was someone that my sister knows. And so I thought it would be rude if I didn't acknowledge her. So I'm looking at her and I'm looking at her in her eyes. And this is something that I normally don't do. And I realized, oh, that's not her. That's not the girl that I thought she was. But at this point, it's too late. I done looked, right? And she looked back at me and I could sense her kind of sizing me up. And I'm sizing her up. And in that moment, I felt not like she was attracted to me, but it was like she was interested. Like, who is this guy looking at me? Right? And I felt this like this heat in my stomach. I guess you would call it butterflies, but it was like different from that. And that's what I'm talking about. That feeling, that's that feeling that keeps me willing to date and have sex with women should a good opportunity present itself. Look, I like women, but not enough to fuck my life up over them. That's why, herbivore male, MGTOW, all that shit. But that's why I'm still open to it, because I can't let go of that special feeling. I can't ignore that. If I ever get the opportunity to experience what's on the other side of the wall, I'm going to take it. I'm just being real. I'm going to take it. But guys don't have that. Guys just simply don't have that. Again, I can see the appeal. Some guys are cute, but guys don't have that. And that's what really separates women from men for me. That's what makes women special to me is that. And I don't even know what that is, right? But I felt it. And more than likely, you know what I'm talking about. You felt it. Whether you've ever had sex or not, we all know, like, that's where it all starts. Every man that's ever loved a woman, every man that's ever had sex with a woman and enjoyed it, that's where it started. That feeling, right? That feeling of that magical feeling, that heat in your gut, that like two deers, a male and female deer in the forest just looking at each other, and then it all starts there. And that's what it is, man. Guys just don't have that. Guys just they don't have that. And that's pretty much why I wouldn't fuck a dude. Oh boy. Okay. So oh boy, I was just looking through my notes here. But so yeah, that's pretty much why I wouldn't bang a dude or a trap or any variation thereof. But something that bothered me a lot was once I realized that, you know what, maybe I'm bisexual, maybe I'm not, 100% straight, that's fine. That's cool. But what bothered me the most was that I knew that a lot of people wouldn't understand that, right? Especially in today's time, when you see, again, we got a whole month dedicated to everything gay. You got, you're getting pride over here, rainbows everywhere. You see, they're turning all these characters gay and bisexual all of a sudden. You got Velma from Scooby-Doo. She's a lesbian now. They got a bisexual Batman and all, all these kind of things just popping up all over the place. There's this obsession with sex and sexual identity, and especially alternative sexualities and whatnot. And for me, the difficult part was never coming to terms with my sexuality. That was easy, but it was more so when I realized that I didn't want to have sex with men, that's kind of like going your own way. But instead of going your own way from women, right, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. I'm essentially going my own way for men. And I just felt like people wouldn't understand that. I felt like people wouldn't get that. I noticed that whenever I would talk about this, like on 4chan, if I talked about it online or whatever, you would always get guys who would say, oh, well, you're just repressed. You're in denial. You hate yourself, right? I hate myself now, right? Me. And what do they call it? Internalized homophobia. Like that's what people automatically think. And that's what I realized, man, is like, when we talk about MGTOW, going your own way, red pill, we're always talking about it in a heterosexual sense. But what happens when a guy is gay and wants to go his own way? What if he's bisexual and he wants to go his own way, right? Like, because obviously, that's something that can happen. I know on WizChan, for example, everyone there is a virgin, or at least that's the rule. And you look at they have a porn thread over there, and you see, oftentimes you'll see like, Yao or trap porn, gay porn, all of it is 2D. But you see stuff like that being posted over there. So obviously you have guys over there who are gay or bisexual, but who have, embraced the virgin lifestyle like myself. And what I'm saying is that what it made me realize was that, MGTOW doesn't only apply to going your own way from women. There are gay guys out there who don't want to live that lifestyle. I know calling it a lifestyle is taboo and is offensive, but you should look up the definition of lifestyle for those who want to get mad about me calling it a lifestyle is your lifestyle pertains to everything from your taste, your preferences, and your orientation. So there is a gay lifestyle, a bi lifestyle, a straight lifestyle, technically, right? So that's not something that should be taken offensively. But when there are guys out there who make a conscious decision not to engage in that lifestyle, or at least limit their involvement in it. You'll see some guys who do have sex with men. They might date men, but they don't participate in the whole pride thing and go to gay clubs and shit like that. And but you might go to a place like WizChan, like I said, and you'll find guys there who are gay or bisexual, but again, they don't want to live that lifestyle. They embrace being a virgin. They embrace the wizard way. But unfortunately, I think that the difference between going your own way as a heterosexual male and a male who's gay or bisexual is that, either way you're going to get shamed, because whenever a man turns his back on sex and relationships, it's always going to be viewed in a negative light unless you're a monk or a priest, or it's for spiritual reasons. People, I think, are always going to take it in a negative light. But I think particularly if you're gay or bisexual, it's going to be even worse, because then by default, people are just going to think that you're a self-hating, right? You're this self-hating, repressed, internalized homophobia guy, right? Even if you just might genuinely just don't want to live that lifestyle. It's for whatever reason. Maybe you don't want to do it for religious reasons. Maybe it's the STDs. Whatever the case may be, you can make a conscious decision not to have sex, whether it's sex with women or whatever, right? But I think most people just wouldn't understand that. And I think another thing about it too is, one thing about me is that the number one priority for me is always being true to who I am. And I think when I realized that I might be bisexual, it was, again, that's cool. But I knew at a certain point that I didn't want to I guess you would say go all the way with it, right? To the point of man fucking, right? And doing all this extra shit, rainbow flags and all that. Like that's not my style. But inevitably, people are going to accuse you of you're not being true to who you are. You're living a lie and all this type of shit. And I gotta be like that. That's the type of shit that bothered me, because it's so important for me to stay true to who I am. And when I was dealing with these feelings, I had to get to the core of why I would make a decision like that. I had to make sure that it was for the right reasons. So I reflected a lot. I thought about it a lot, and I went back. And now looking back, it makes perfect sense why I would make a decision like that. And when I go back to even when I was young, I've always been sort of detached from my own sexuality. Even with girls, I can remember rejecting the idea that I needed a woman to validate my existence. I rejected the idea that I was somehow less because I was a virgin. I was the guy, I questioned things like whether or not I should get married, whether or not I wanted kids. It's a man's job to it's a man's job to protect and provide. I question these things. despite being attracted to women, I question these rules that were placed upon me by default of being attracted to women, right? Like, okay, you're a man, you have a penis, you like girls, you gotta chase after them women, you gotta protect them, you gotta get married. I question these things, and every step of the way, I always made sure that I did what I wanted to do, not what was necessarily expected of me because of my sexuality. And I think for me, the simple fact is just that, sex was always outside of the realm of importance for me. My identity was never wrapped up too much in my sexuality to begin with. Even with women, I like girls, but I was never attached to that. Like, to me, okay, it doesn't matter if I like girls. That's not important. It's just, it's there. I accept it. It's cool. But, that's not what makes me cool. That's not what makes me a good person. That's not what makes me love myself. Whatever my sexual preferences might be, to me, it's not important. And, just a few final points on this. Another thing that you kind of have to deal with is the whole concept of pride, pride and, oh God, right. Cause it's like people would expect, okay, if you're bisexual, why aren't you going around waving your rainbow flag or your bi flag or trans flag? Like Sonic Fox did when he was at the, was it Evo? He had the trans cape and shit like that, but that's not to undermine, his relationship with his sexuality, right? Because obviously for him, it's much more, his sexuality is much more important to him. That's why he wears it on his sleeve like that. But me personally, I could never involve myself with something like pride and cause, I don't have anything against it. It definitely serves a valuable purpose for people who are really into their sexual identity, living an alternative lifestyle, and it opens a space for people to feel more comfortable with what, how they want to live. But it's not something that resonates with me. My thing has always been trying to avoid sex, avoiding the pitfalls and the bullshit that comes with sex and relationships. While other people embrace their sexuality, I embrace being a virgin. I embrace being single, and I ended up very happy. And I think it's because I walked the path that my soul was most attracted to. For me, I've always admired people like, Nikola Tesla, Isaac Newton, monks and the priests and the shamans, MGTOW, herbivore male, volcels, child free, red pill. Like that's what I like. That's what I admire. I admire the whole idea of maybe not never having. I'm not saying you gotta go to the edit stream, but I've always leaned towards the side of not pedestalizing sex, of not looking at sex as something that's important, of not looking at sex as the priority. So naturally for me, my relationship with my sexuality is much different from a lot of other people, regardless of sexuality, right? Regardless, gay, straight, bi. To me, I'm not attacked. It's bullshit to me. I'll just being honest. To me, my sexual preferences don't mean anything important. It's just, to me, it's no more important than like what my favorite junk food is, right? Okay, my favorite candy is Reese's Fast Breaks and Twizzlers, but is that important? Is that something to celebrate? Is that something to put on the flag and wave around? Like it's something to be proud? Fuck nah. Like, but again, that's me. That's the level of importance that sexuality has to me, and which is not very much at all. I acknowledge my sexual preferences. I accept them. I'm cool with them. But as far as like celebrating it, as far as pedestalizing it to the point of pride and whatnot, that's not my way. That's not my style at all. That's why I can't get with something like that. But that's no offense to those who do. and not to undermine, other aspects of the movement and the good that it does, but that's not my style. And it makes me think of the video that my favorite video that the Thinking Ape did. He's a MGTOW guy. He doesn't throw that word around much nowadays, but he's a MGTOW guy. And my favorite video of his is Elliot Rodgers and the religion of sex. And I do believe, I don't feel anything. Coach Gray Adams. But I do believe, though, that the era that we live in now, this time, sex really has become a religion in of itself. And when you look at things, and this is just talking about like gay pride and all that, you see the same thing on the heterosexual side with slut walks, hookup culture, and even when you look at how men are shamed for not wanting to get married, how people are shamed for wanting to be child free, not wanting to have kids. We all, regardless of sexuality, have to deal with different expectations that are placed on us regarding sex and sexuality. It's like again, you got to protect and provide for the woman. It's a man's job to approach the woman. You got to get married. You got to have kids. Don't be gay. If you are gay, embrace it. Just suck dick. Don't think about it. Right? Like, we all have to deal with it in one way or another. And that was definitely the hardest part for me. Being a guy in a world, being someone who doesn't have the same reverence for sex and sexuality as most of the people around you in today's age is very alienating, and you feel like people don't understand you. You feel like people are always going to try to criticize you for the way you want to live your life. But again, we all deal with this in one way or another. But I think that was kind of the funny thing about my struggle with my sexuality, was that you see with most guys, it's like they want to fuck dudes. They like, I want to be gay. I want to suck dick, but the world won't let me. And with me, it was the opposite. I don't want to. Like, I was always more worried about people not understanding why I would choose not to, even when the option is available to me. And, but, on the flip side, what I also noticed was that, talking about this, before, because again, this isn't the first time having this conversation. It's good to see that a lot of my fans, they understand where I come from. And even having conversations with other guys about like shit like this online, there are people who kind of understand and get, not being just so into your own sexuality, not just not being in rainbow mode, or it's my job to protect and provide for women, whatever, right? It's cool that there are people that understand that. And I think through it all, regardless of how it might have made me feel as far as like in a negative sense, no matter what, I would have always walked this path. It's no way I will let what other people think affect the path I'm going to walk as far as like how I live my life and shit like that. So as far as sex is concerned, it's just not important to me. And sexuality, sex, all that, it's just not important to me. But it is fun to masturbate. It is fun to masturbate to freak nasty trap porn though. But here's my final point though. Here's my final point on this, and this is important. Just to be clear, I don't want to discourage anyone from experimenting or exploring your sexuality, because I always got to make this clear. Even going back to I've never seen a vagina episode of How to Be a Neat, I'm always careful, because I feel like people might take what I say and run with it too far, because I'm extreme with this shit. You don't have to go to the extremes that I do to avoid sex. And so, yeah, I'm not trying to discourage anyone from, experimenting, but if that's what you want to do, then do it. One thing I can certainly agree with is that you have to be true to who you are. I think it's very dishonorable to betray yourself by limiting yourself based on what someone else might think or do, rather than honestly practicing true expression of the soul. You have to do what you want to do. Like whoever or however you want to have sex, the main thing is just make sure you're doing what you truly believe is right for you. And that's whether you want to be, whether you choose to have sex with men, women, both, trannies, whether you want to transition, whether you want to identify as a woman, like whatever it is, you got to do that shit and you got to stand on it. And for me, my thing is I embrace virginity. I embrace being single. I embrace not making sex a priority. And that's what I have to stand on. But maybe you're the opposite. Maybe you just trying to fuck everything. Maybe you want to get married and be traditional. Whatever the case may be, the main thing is always do what you believe is right for you. Don't let the world try to tell you like how you got to live your life, because this is your only life. You got to be yourself. You got to be true to yourself. But I also say this, be careful, because just because you're being true to who you are, just because you're doing what you want to do, that doesn't always mean that you're not headed for, I should say, a fucked up situation. So entertain yourself, but entertain yourself with discretion. And that is, God, that is the main topic for the day. I know I kind of went all over the place. I went from like traps to sexuality, but I think all of that is very important, because that's the main thing that I wanted to talk about. I think it's very interesting how we look, like our relationship with our own sexuality. I think is a very interesting topic, because I think by default we're all expected to have reverence for sex and our own sexuality. We're all expected to be attached to our sexual preferences. But when you look at people like Nikola Tesla, right, who, now we assume he was heterosexual. Some people implied that he might have been a closet homosexual. Whatever the case may be, whatever his sexuality was, he chose not to make it a priority. And I find it very interesting when you look at somebody like him, and he's not the only one. When you look at people like that who, regardless of their sexuality, they're able to kind of step outside of that and look at it objectively in relation to their core values, and say, you know what, okay, this is my sexuality, but it's not important to engage with it. It's not important to indulge in sex. I can put sex to the side. I can be a virgin. I can be single for life even. And on the flip side, you have people walking the more traditional path of really embracing their sexuality, embracing the potential as far as starting a family, having kids, or maybe if you're gay or you're a lesbian, you embrace that. You start dating women, dating women as a woman, or dating men as a man, right? But what I'm saying is, you have these two extremes where it's like, you look at someone like myself, I have no attachment to my sexuality. To me, my sexuality is no more important than the shit that comes out of my ass. I don't give a fuck about it. Fuck that shit, right? But then you look at someone like somebody who might participate in pride, or maybe a man who chooses to have a family. For him, it has so much more importance. And it's not to say like either one of us is in the wrong. I just think that the simple fact is, different people have a different type of relationship with their own sexual preferences, and it's not important to everybody. Everybody doesn't have that same attachment to sex and sexuality like somebody else does. And that's the main point I wanted to make here. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I think that was a very deep, insightful, interesting conversation, because I don't really see guys diving into it the way I do. Just being real, because I think that this particular phenomenon, as far as like guys who are in the traps, I don't see a lot of guys really going in depth about their interest in the fetish and their sexuality. And that's why I really wanted to talk about this shit. Cause me, I don't give a fuck. I'll talk about all this. I ain't gonna lie, man. Like we can get into it, but I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you got something to value out of it. And next we're gonna have the thread of the day and then comments. This episode has got to be long, but I'll see you guys in a little bit. So we are back, and next we have the TOD, the top. What I say? What's it called? The thread of the day. How about to say the topic of the day? Okay, so let's look at the TOD. I don't remember what it was. Okay. So I think I found this on ADV. So the OP says, "Are there any real volcels out here? How do you guys do it?" So I thought this would be a good thread, kind of loosely connected to the topic as far as like, guys who choose to avoid sex, guys who, for whatever reason, guys who avoid sex. And we all know about incels, but volcels are the opposite of the incel. Volcels are the guys who do have sex, opportunities to have sex or date, but don't engage with them, pretty much. And now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to make it seem like I'm out here just turning down bad bitches. You guys know that's not the case. But even myself, I've had opportunities to lose my virginity. It's just that none of those opportunities seem like they would be worth engaging with. So that's why I would consider myself a vocel. I know some people would say, "Oh, it's a cope," but I don't think you have to have supermodels throwing you pussy to be considered a vocel. I think vocel is really as simple as being a guy who could get laid, and more specifically, I think at the very least you had to have had a chance. I think you had to at least had a chance, right? And I've had at least like 3 or 4, but turned it down to be like officially a vocel. But let's get right into it. So this guy says, "I get women asking me out and flirting with me, but I'm usually too socially inept to do anything about it, so I end up directly and indirectly rejecting them. Does that count as vocel or incel?" So I would consider that a vocel, because, well, like he's close, because obviously he has women attracted to him. Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm too to do anything about it. So, okay, hold up. Nah. Wait, never mind. Because look what he said. He said, "I'm usually too socially inept to do anything about it, so I end up directly and indirectly rejecting them." So he has a personal issue that's really getting in his way. So this doesn't seem like he's turning them down because he doesn't think the opportunity is worth it, or the juice is worth the squeeze, as MGTOW would say. This is more like he said, this is social ineptitude getting in his way. But it looks like he does want to date and have sex, but he's just too socially awkward to pull the trigger, so to speak. So, but I don't know if I would necessarily call him an incel either. I think he's really more so normal, because it seems like he has women attracted to him. He just doesn't know how to seal the deal. So I wouldn't consider him either, really. So this guy says, "Date a BPD bipolar girl. Once is enough to create months, years of monk status. A Me Too will also give the same result." And I have a friend who, oh man, his girl is super. She is super BPD3, right? Like they got Super Saiyan 3. She is super BPD3. She is crazy to the maximum. And the stories that he tells me about her, and really not just him, but most of the women that I know, if I have an opportunity to get to know them after an extended amount of time, they always tend to reveal some level of craziness. And that's one of the things that keeps me from really being too excited about potentially dating anyone, is that it's too many crazy bitches out here, bro. So this guy says, me literally, I got so many hot women approaching me over the years, but too paranoid to do anything about it. I'm growing old, I get less and less attention now. Damn, that's kind of sad. That's kind of sad, man. But you know, I'm getting older. I'm 30 now. And I feel like I got the most choosing signals when I was in my early 20s. But to me, I look better. I believe I look better now than I did then. But it does seem like I got like the height of my choosing signals that I got from girls, and sometimes from cute girls, was definitely early to mid 20s, man. So I don't know, but I never had like hot girls approach, like not like that, but I would get choosing signals and shit. Okay, so this guy says, 23 years old, KH dateless virgin. A thick Mexican girl has asked me out once and I just rejected her. Sex and stuff is probably nice, but on such a spur and so put off by intimacy that I can't see it happening. I'd rather just look at hentai or something to get the urge out and move on. Girls don't seem worth the trouble. Haven't been called ugly, so that's nice. Girls seem to think I look okay to average. The brain just isn't up for it. I think the most important part here is girls don't seem worth the trouble. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. I mean, he's going through some MGTOW shit pretty much. But I think this is something that a lot of guys are kind of going through. Is just that dating and trying to attract women, trying to maintain a relationship really does just seem like it's more trouble than it's worth. It's depressing. I know it sounds pessimistic, but when you see so many guys saying stuff like this is real, bro. This is real. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. I've never seen a healthy relationship in my life. You cannot blame me for embracing my virginity. You cannot blame me for embracing being single when all I see is toxic relationships. It just does not seem worth it. But I'll say this too. A thick Mexican girl asked me out and I just rejected her. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that. Now see, I know what you're thinking. I mean, look, Chad, you said it's not worth it, but you right? Look now, this is what I'm saying. If I happen to meet a girl who seems like she's cool and she's of good character, she has integrity, she's a good person overall, and she's attractive, I wouldn't turn that opportunity down. Because despite all the bullshit that can come with relationships and all that, I'm confident that if I see enough red flags, I'm going to abort the mission. I'm not like one of these guys that's just going to overlook red flags and still try to hit. Or at least I hope that I would have the presence of mind and the wisdom to not engage with bad options. We talked about this before. So even despite all the negativity that I see in relationships, the lack of healthy, normal, stable relationships that I see, if a girl was at least willing to meet me halfway and express a high level of interest, I'll see what's up. Because if you're crazy, I'm gonna find out and I'm gonna get the fuck out of there. And I know better than to invest heavily into a girl that you just met or haven't gotten to know adequately enough to determine if she would be someone that's beneficial to add to your life. But turning down thick Mexican girls, that's not something I would do. Unless they were obviously crazy, single mom or something like that. So this guy says, you may consider me volcel, but I consider incel ideology absolute cancer on society. Many people choose not to have relationships because they are disinterested in people. An even larger amount abstain from sex because they don't believe they could achieve the quality of relationship they want. Such is life. It's easier for me to be alone than lower myself to some crazy bitch's world of drama. So that's how I do it. It's easier and takes less effort than putting myself out there. Young people are statistically having less sex than prior generations, male and female. Hold on, let me back up and I gotta clap, dude. I gotta clap. Are you me? Are you me? You ever have that "Are you me" moment on 4chan? This guy, oh man, he broke it down so perfectly. An even larger amount abstain from sex because they don't believe they could achieve the quality of relationship they want. That hits the nail on the head. He hit the button with that one. That is so real. That's why you see this. That's why you see the rise of the red pill. That's why you see MGTOW. That's why you see the wizard. That's why you see this shit. Because we see so much bullshit, and like he said, crazy bitch world, some crazy bitches world. We see this shit so much. It's just we are just traumatized, and we just don't want to deal with the bullshit, man. Like that's what it is. We just do not want it. We see too much. It's too much bullshit out there, man. It's too many toxic relationships, and I know a lot of people, they'll chop it up to us being too pessimistic, but I do not think that's the case. Look, I'm all for optimism. I'm all for positivity and going for your goals and believing in yourself. But you have to understand, life it's not just about what you do. It's about what you don't do too. And you have to have the wisdom and the discernment to know not only when you have an opportunity to make something work, but also when something is not going to work. And as depressing as it is, for some people, they are making the right decision by not dating, by not having sex, because when they step foot on that road, disaster awaits. It's not what you want to hear. It's not pretty. It's not, I get it, but that's reality, man. So this guy says, hand feels better than pussy. Also, sex is more trouble than it's worth. You either get a hookup with someone who will discuss you, or you get a girlfriend who will annoy you. And this was, I found this thread on ADV, so I thought that I was expecting something different. Like, you guys know, I don't just pick the posts that agree with me. I try to get a good mix, but this thread had quite a few guys who were just completely in sync with my line of thinking. And I was like, whoa, like just the way they described it just perfectly sums up how I feel and how a lot of other guys feel. And it shows you that there is a real issue as far as like, I think there are just too many toxic relationships, and it's discouraging people from trying to date and have sex. Well, here's a long one. This guy says, I'm back. I don't know how many women I've slept with, but I think it's somewhere between 50 and 60. Culture began changing for the worst in my view around 2012. By 2016, I felt thoroughly frustrated. My fiance and I mutually split ways the day of my graduation. Thereafter, I slept with 2 women, both of them extremely beautiful, both of them extremely bad for me. At the same time, I realized that I needed to switch industries, which meant serious dedication. I weighed the pros and cons. I ended up abandoning the gym in favor of skill maxing, and I voluntarily quit pursuing women. For the last 7 years, I have slept with maybe 7 or so women. They fell in my lap. I didn't pursue. Despite everything you might think, it really is your choice whether or not you have sex. Don't let the chemical roller coaster, i.e. your hormones, beguile you into thinking you don't have agency. You do. It really truly is that simple. A word of caution, just how Zarathustra, I know what that is. That's the character in Nietzsche's. Is it Nietzsche? I forgot how to say his name. Look, I'm bad with names, but I know what he's talking about. Just how Zarathustra found mankind despicable upon returning to society from the mountaintops, you too might find it difficult, if not impossible, to date again upon returning. You will change. Do not make the mistake of saying to just how Zarathustra, I know what that is. That's the character in Nietzsche's. Is it Nietzsche? I forgot how to say his name. Look, I'm bad with names, but I know what he's talking about. Just how Zarathustra found mankind despicable upon returning to society from the mountaintops, you too might find it difficult, if not impossible, to date again upon returning. You will change. Do not make the mistake of saying to yourself, no, I won't. I made the mistake of thinking that I could come back to dating whenever I wanted. That simply isn't true. Dating isn't like riding a bike. A unique, inexplicable part of your mind is exercised when speaking to women romantically. Unfortunately, that part of your mind is not used in any other arena. Thusly, it atrophies. It atrophies. I don't care how hot, rich, or likable you are. This is a very real phenomenon. That being said, I would proceed with extreme caution. I'm sorry, guys. Like, this post is so good. I'm humbled. I'm humbled and almost like this, like, bro, don't get me, like, I'm not sitting here like, yeah, MGTOW, red pill. This shit is depressing. This is not good. This is like let's stop real quick. This shit is depressing, bro. I said it once. I will say it again. I'm not lying. I've never seen a healthy relationship in my fucking life. Let me tell you guys something. When I started working, I met somebody who I thought was in a normal, stable relationship. I was like, oh man, like this is it. This is what I'm looking for. A year later, the wife is dating a woman. The husband allegedly had to get an abortion or is trying to get an abortion for his mistress, and they're getting a divorce now. When I first seen them, it all looked good, hand in hand together. Whoa, I found one. A year later, disaster. There goes my one. And this isn't something to celebrate. This isn't something to brag about. This isn't something you want to feel good about being right about. But when you see all these guys, and especially this guy and the way he broke it down, who are seeing this, and you're seeing that this is the truth. That for some people, you're better off not dating. You're better off not having sex. This is some real talk, man. And it's not cool. This shit is not cool. This ain't cool. This is fucked up. It's not supposed to be this way. But it is. It's not so. I just got done talking about all the reasons why I wouldn't fuck a dude. You guys already know why I don't date and chase after women. Like, it's self-explanatory. But look, dude, like, this is real shit here, man. Oh, God. And I know healthy relationships are out there. I'm willing to bet on that. But you know what? I'm not betting on me being the one who's going to get one. I'm not taking that risk. But look at what this guy says. And this is the best part. What he says about Zarathustra, however you pronounce it, somebody let me know in the comments. He found mankind despicable upon returning to society from the mountaintops. You too might find it difficult, if not impossible, to date again upon returning. You will change. Do not make the mistake of saying to yourself, no, I won't. I made the mistake of thinking that I could come back to dating whenever I wanted. That simply isn't true. And see, when you become red pilled, and I know now describing it that way makes you sound kind of corny, I get it, but you guys know what I'm saying. When you learn about female nature, male nature, different dating dynamics, statistics, the data, lookism. You learn about toxic relationships. When you learn about all these different things, and then you take it into reality, and you see it in reality, because truth be told, a lot of this, really all of this comes from reality. This is not internet shit taken from the internet and put in reality. This is reality taken to the internet, spread, and then other people take it to the reality or recognize it in reality, right? But what I'm saying is, when I look at the women around me, I can find plenty of women that are attractive to me. That's easy. The problem is when you look at lifestyle and character. That's where they all fall apart. When you look at how, at least in my area, a lot of them all, single moms, already got kids. A lot of them, they want to date thugs and gangbangers. A lot of them are toxic. They're immature. They're combative, argumentative. You see these qualities, and see, I look at, just for example, me and my friend with a perfect example, right? He's the type of dude who overlooks all this bullshit that keeps us from engaging with the bad options that are available to us, that keeps us from trying to date and have sex, that keeps us from putting in significant effort to try to get a girlfriend, anything like that. He's the type of guy that overlooks all the red flags, and he suffers immensely for it. But he doesn't see what I see, because he did not go to the mountaintops, so to speak, right? He didn't take the red pills, or he doesn't see it. He doesn't see through the matrix. He doesn't see how he's being manipulated. He doesn't see the traps and the pitfalls that we see. And so he walks right into them. I see it. And the sad thing about it is that when you see it, there's so few opportunities for you to actually date and have sex, because you know that most of them that are available to you are not worth it. It's bad. And so really the best option for you is to be single. It is to be a virgin, or whatever, right? For this guy, he wasn't a virgin, but when you look at his story, it's even more interesting because he kind of lived both lifestyles. He had the women, he had, he had sex and all that, and consciously chose to separate himself from it, and couldn't really bring himself back to engage the way that he used to, because he could see through the matrix now. He could see, oh, she's not worth dealing with. She's toxic. I can't do. No, he could see it now. And that's exactly how I feel when I look around. Again, no shortage of attractive women, but how many women are around me, available to me, that would actually be of benefit for me to associate with and date? And for how long? If I do find that, how long before I'm like the couple I just talked about? A year later, the wife is dating a woman, and come on, and they're getting a divorce. I mean, come on, like, come on. But here's the other thing too, though. One more point on this, because this is good too. What he said: dating is like riding a bike. A unique, inexplicable part of your mind is exercised when speaking to women romantically. Unfortunately, the part of your mind is not used in any other arena. Thusly, it atrophies. I don't care how hot, rich, or likable you are. This is a very real phenomenon. That being said, I will proceed with extreme caution. So what he's saying is, when you choose to separate yourself from the arena of dating and relationships and romance, that part of your brain that is utilized for attracting women, impressing women, talking to women, dealing with women, atrophies. It worsens, it degrades, because you're not working on it. It's like if you're exercising but you don't have a leg day. Well, you can get your upper body looking big and strong, but if you don't have a leg day or some type of leg exercise, you're going to be stuck with chicken legs. And that's kind of what he's talking about in relation to women. If you do not engage, if you're going your own way, if you're going to the mountaintops, right, and avoiding all this, you're not going to be developing that part of your brain that's used for dealing with women. And I gotta say, man, and this is just real. One of the scary things about being a 30-year-old virgin is at this point I can hardly imagine what it's like to be intimate with a woman. Obviously, because I've never been with one. But what I'm saying is, I feel different from when I was younger. When I was younger, I felt like I could easily slide into it. You know, of course, start from scratch. You know, you got to walk before you can crawl. And you know, I'm not saying I dive into it and be a pro, but it was easier to imagine myself taking the necessary steps to learn how to be with a woman, to learn how to be a boyfriend and to have a girlfriend and what that is. I don't feel that anymore. I don't feel that anymore. And that's one of the scary things about it is it feels so foreign to me in a way that it didn't before when I was younger. And I think that's what he's talking about. And you notice guys say, how do I talk to girls? They don't say, how do I talk to guys? How do I talk to people to make friends? You don't hear that a lot. You see, how do I talk to girls? Because like he said, there's a specific part of your mind that's used for that. And it takes experience and practice and exercise to grow that. And that's the flip side of going your own way. That's the flip side of this is you know, that is it's weird though. I'm telling you, this is why I don't try to encourage people to go to the extreme like I have. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying there's a price to pay. And look at what he says. That being said, I would proceed with extreme caution. There's a price to pay, man. This guy says, by understanding that we are all in control of our own lives and all incels are in fact volcels. You know what? I'm going to stop there because the episode is already so goddamn long. I do have a couple more, but I kind of want to wrap things up soon. So we're going to do just a handful. But that last one, I'm sorry. Like that's mic drop right there. That's mic drop for me. That's mic drop for sure. Oh man, but I hope you guys enjoyed that TOD. Next, we're gonna get to the comments. Wow, just wow, man. I gotta post this on Twitter tonight, and pray. So, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode of the Botcast, but it's almost time for me to get out of here. My throat is just on its way out of the door. I don't know how people do this all the time. Like radio personalities who got to just sit and talk. It's like it's like the upper part of the back of your mouth just starts getting sore. It's crazy. By like the third hour, oh boy. But you know how I do. I thug it out. So let's go ahead and get to the comments. So what do we have? Satori Blue, a loyal fan, says on the botany book beat, this is really good, by the way, Chad. You've been on point. I have, right? He said, I like to get drunk and high and play your music and pretend I'm in my spaceship. I love hearing shit like that. You guys are going to have a treat later on because I'm doing some crazy producing. I'm not putting it all out right now because I'm saving beats for the Robot Music 9003. So I ain't trying to put a lot of them out yet. Some of them are already out because I'm gonna go back and use some beats that I haven't used yet. But I'm just, spoiler alert, Robot Music 9003 is gonna have a lot of beats that you just haven't heard. Like, it's new production. And I'm telling you, I got some cool shit in the chamber, man. I'm just telling you, I've been on my shit. Botany book is just a taste. That was just something for the fans, but I appreciate that, Satori Blue. Puppet Master says, oh yeah, I did a poll with Chad Marco Divergent. He said, Puppet Master Reloaded says, pay escort, just escort max. But I did a whole thing on why I wouldn't pay for sex. Like I said before, it's not really the money, it's more so the principle of it. I'm not interested in having sex with somebody who doesn't want to have sex with me. If you got to pay for it, that means they don't want to fuck you. That means they don't like you. If you don't want to fuck me, if you don't like me, I don't want to fuck you. I ain't paying for it. So DGNR8 says on the chat, Marco reads Chainsaw Man for the first time video, how many calories do you eat a day? I thought he was gonna say something about Chainsaw Man, but I don't count calories. I probably should, but I don't really count calories. My main thing is keeping my sugar intake low. That's really my main focus. I don't concern myself too much with calories, although I should, like I said. But my focus is mainly on the sugar. I'm crazy about the sugar because I have a sweet tooth, so I have to watch that. So when I go in the store and I'm buying stuff, I go straight for these sugar numbers on the back of the package. I'm always looking for the amount of sugar. Like, oh man, just real quick, man. You guys know Lil Baby, the rapper. He has a drink out in one of the stores in my local area, the Rosa store. And I think it's called Ooh-wee or Owie or something like that. So I pick it up. I'm like, oh, that's cool. You know, Lil Baby got his own drink. Look, that's major, making major moves and shit. So I pick it up. I look at the back. That shit got like 73 grams of sugar. Or like 80, like something like 70 to 80 grams of sugar, bro. Like, and this is just a regular, this ain't some big drink. This is like a regular, like soda bottle, regular single person size soda bottle amount of drink. And it's like 70 to 80 grams of sugar in it. That's pretty much 3 days worth of sugar right there. So that's what I look out for. Sugar is my main concern. I'm not diabetic or anything, but that's my main concern, is just watching out for the sugar. I don't worry about the calories as much, but sugar, I try to keep that controlled. I try to keep because I do have a sweet tooth, so I have to really pay attention to that. So Satori Blue says on Never Chase, First goes hard. I left this high 2 days ago and didn't remember. And when I read this comment, I agreed with myself. That was on the SAD EP, you would say, or mixtape, whatever you want to call it, that I put out several years ago. Kind of underrated work of mine. The standout to me is Forever Alone. Make sure you check out the SAD mixtape. But yeah, Never Chase 2 was a good one. How did it go? I promise to never chase a bitch again. Yeah, that was serious though. I ain't doing that shit no more. So Resared said on the chat, Marco reads Chainsaw Man for the first time video, are you still on 4chan? I stopped browsing that place long time ago. Then Nuts Cheese says you made it. And then Flim says, Keck, I still go there every now and then. I don't go there as much as I used to. But I still go there. Yeah. The boards I frequent the most are probably the Animal board. Rest in peace, Friender. R9K and Video Game Retro. Used to be in the poll a while ago. I go to poll when I want to find interesting news articles that you might not find in the mainstream news outlets, and just to see the hilarious, like, hard right side of politics and whatnot. Also every now and then GIF, if I'm looking for like a quick fab. I don't want to go into my porn folder, but yeah, I still go there every now and then, but not as much. I'm on Twitter more nowadays, a lot of YouTube, but yeah, I'm trying to diversify as far as like the websites I go to, because it's not much I can do on 4chan as far as promoting myself except shilling, you know. So Hellbreaker says on the Drowning beat, your beats give me some vibes of Kaiba the Revenge and Joey the Passion OST. Games I used to play as a young ninja. I have no idea what that is, but I appreciate that. I'm glad that I have my own unique vibe with my beats. So Eric Williams says on the Nightwalk vlog, should you tell girls you are a virgin? Under no circumstances should you tell a girl you're a virgin. They all want men that other women want. Unless you're super duper religious, it won't pass the smell test. And even if you're religious, you might not get a pass. So he's right. Don't get me wrong. He's right. But if you watch the video, you know the point that I made about this though. In my opinion, whether or not you do it is up to you. Me, I would do it because I think that it's bad to want to have sex so bad that you're afraid to tell a girl something about yourself. I believe that it sets a bad precedent when you begin an interaction with a girl based on, okay, I gotta hide certain things about myself or she is not gonna like me. Because I believe that once you start off like that, you're starting off on the wrong foot. You want her too bad if you're willing to lie or you're concerned about how she would feel about anything about you. I get it. Everybody's not like me. Everybody's not trying to die a virgin. Everybody's not trying to be a 30-year-old virgin and be. I get it. So again, I'm just my perspective, my opinion. The more logical thing to do, of course, is to not. I get it. The more logical I'm trying to get pussy nigga thing to do is to not say it. But me, I'm kind of extreme with this shit, and I'm not with the lying. I'm not with the being scared. Oh, what's she gonna think if I say this? Or I don't think that's a good way to deal with women because you're basically expressing a certain amount of really pedestalizing her when you do stuff like that. You know, I'm so afraid of what she's gonna think that, you know, I'll lie, I'll conceal things about myself. I don't think that's healthy. But the reality is, like you said, girls are harsh. They are harsh, and they all want men that other. That's just facts. Most women don't want to be the guy, the girl. They don't want to be the one. They don't want to be your first time. They don't want to show you how to satisfy a woman. They want to be taken and ravished on day one. So. Bilal Fernandez says on the No Singles Allowed 2 video, the Joker review, I knew this movie review would be somewhere in your video catalog. Glad I was able to find it. And he also says on the No Singles Allowed song, just realized this is the scene where Shinji goes to a movie theater alone and sees a couple making out. Excellent touch, Mr. Marco. Hey man, I'm all about the feels. I know my shit when it comes to this. Don't get it twisted. So YK2K says on a Hajime no Ippo anime review, I see a 1 hour plus review on the Hajime no Ippo. I subscribe. Thank you so much. Somebody that appreciates my anime reviews. I always, because, you know, those don't get a lot of views and I don't mind, but I always get excited when people like the way I review anime because I don't do quick 5-10 minute reviews. I go in, man. I go in on the plot, the characters and what I like about it and whatnot. I try not to spoil it too much, but yeah, I go in and I think it's very cool when someone appreciates the way that I do it. So Dark Magician says on the How to Be a Neat episode 0, Neat Goat, I'd be interested in your backstory on how you got in this situation. I would love to tell you guys. Just that'll be a great topic for the Botcast. So yeah, shit. But I plan on doing all those personal stories, you know, in due time. Don't worry, you're gonna get the full life story of Chad Marco just over time. Kind of like how I talked about my experience with the cocaine addicted stepfather or step nigga, as I like to say. We're gonna go in depth. Even today, like this whole episode was about, you know, going into sexuality and whatnot. Like I'm an open book. So I love talking about different parts of my life and how I got here and how I did that. So I would love to go into like how I transitioned from school to NEAT and how all that was, even though I've talked about it quite a bit. But now I think I could really lay it out for you guys in an interesting way. And so Dark Magician says on the tale of Chad Marco's biggest crush, he says that means that the one you liked had noticed you. If anything, maybe she put her friend up to asking you about yourself, since she might have had a crush on you but thought you were interested in her, since you were too scared to make a move on her. First of all, look, I was not scared. Don't get it twisted. I was not scared. Don't put that on me. I knew that I didn't have a chance, or I believe to this day I didn't have a chance. But other than that, so what I was saying was, you guys know there was the cashier girl that did like me and asked me for my number and whatnot, and you know, I didn't pull the trigger because she was dating my friend. You know, that whole story. She was working with the girl that I had this big crush on. Now, because she kind of showed up towards the end of that girl working there. And so she had told me that she asked the girl that I liked about me, and she told her about me, that she noticed me and whatnot. And that's cool, right? She obviously noticed me, but that doesn't mean that she liked me, you know? But it's nice to think that maybe she did, right? It does feel good to think that maybe she did like me, and I just didn't take advantage, man. Oh God, don't start there. don't even start there, man. Oh God, because if she liked me and I didn't go for it. That would kind of break my heart a little bit. I'd be sad for just a little while. I'll put it like that. I'd be sad for a little while. It's easier to think that she didn't like me and I didn't have a chance. But that, man, I swear to this day, I've never liked the girl as much as I liked her. I mean, just, it seems kind of silly to say that because I didn't know much about her personality, but physically, I felt an attraction to her. Like just none other, man. Like it was just, I really just like that girl. I'm telling you, she had a fat ass. She was cute. She was feminine. It was just, yeah. Let's move on. So Dark Magician says, should you tell girls you are a virgin video? I can understand your logic on this. But to me, it's not about putting the woman on a pedestal. It's more about me not being obligated to tell a woman personal information like that the first time I meet them. They're not going to tell us how many dudes they have been with. Some of them have probably been piped down before the date and still try to present themselves like they're worth your time. Don't fall for the okie doke. I see where he's coming from, but don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it as if you're obligated to tell them. It really is none of her business anymore, like you said, then it's our business to know her body count. You don't tell her because you have to. It's a shit test. Telling a girl you're a virgin is like a male shit test because it's a way to gauge her interest. Now, I'm speaking from my own personal view here, but I don't want to deal with a woman who has low interest. I want a girl who is very attracted to me. I want a girl who is going to accept me inside and out, up, down, left, right, diagonally. So me telling a girl I'm a virgin is not out of a weird sense of obligation. That's not the case. I'm telling her because I'm trying to gauge her interest. If I tell her and she cuts me off, she loses interest. That means that she never had high interest in the first place. If a girl is going to turn you down because you are a virgin, then she obviously is not highly interested in you. If that's all it takes, then her interest in you is lukewarm at best, or is based on a fantasy of who she of who she believes you to be. And so that's why I would do it. I wouldn't tell him because I feel like I must or it's my responsibility. I'm testing this bitch. I'm testing it. I'm trying to see, okay, how much do you like me? Do you like me enough to look past the fact that I'm a virgin? Right? That's why I would do it. So 0 Point says on the Is MGTOW a Cult video, it started as a cult for me. Then I experienced a bit of dating and realized the MGTOWs were right all along. I could date with enough effort, but I'd rather spend those efforts on more important endeavors. Ain't it the truth? I mean, you can't say it much better than that. I could date with it. That's me. I could do it, right? I could date with enough effort, but I'd rather spend those efforts on more important endeavors. But again, like I said, man, this shit it's sad. It's sad that this is where we are. We should not. This should not be the state of affairs for people to feel like dating isn't worth it. I mean, whether you agree or disagree, this is just what there are a lot of people who feel like this, and I think it's really sad, but that's just where we are now. It's too many negative examples of relationships and too many toxic people. It's too much bullshit out there, man, and it's damn. It's just damn. I'm damn right now. So Bilal says on the Should You Tell Girls You Are a Virgin video, this is popular, huh? Bilal Fernandez says, not even going to watch this video. The answer is simple. Hell no. And then Rap Shout says, fair point, good fellow. However, I would like to delve deeper into Chad Marco's mindset about this and his opinions on this matter, with him being so experienced in this matter. Well, I broke it down pretty much. Oh yeah, but he's saying that he's gonna watch the video because he wants to know what my opinion is. That's the whole point though, Bilal. But look, don't listen to me. I'm crazy. Don't listen to me. I'm extreme. Look, okay, I'm not crazy, but I'm extreme with this shit. I took this whole virgin thing too far. And I'll admit it, you don't have to be like me. You don't have to be like me, but it was important to me. It was important to me to be able to do stuff like this, because if I can't be myself, if I'm afraid to be myself in front of a woman, if I'm afraid to say, look, this is who I am, then I would have dishonored myself. I can't live like that. I can't live afraid. I can't walk scared of who I am. I can't walk around scared of the fact that I'm a virgin and what people are going to think about it. I can't do that. That's why I do shit like this, because otherwise that's fear. You're holding fear inside of you when you live like that. When you're afraid of what she's gonna think if she finds out you're a virgin. That's fear that's just lingering inside of your soul. You might not see it, you might not sense it, but it's there. When you cling to shit like that, it lingers, it festers. That's why I let all of that shit go. That's why some of my ideas might seem extreme or crazy, but that's because it's so important for me not to hold on to these negative feelings. And that's my mindset. that's my mindset on it. I'm not crazy. I go to these extremes, but it's all for a good cause. It's all so I can be myself and so I can be free. And so I cannot live in fear of what people think about me. So I cannot live in fear of what a girl is going to think about me. So Bilal says on the Cowboy Bebop anime review, the Real Folk Blues is one of the best anime outros. It has a nostalgic vibe to it, almost like revisiting the past and seeing all of your past life events. That outro is like the French kiss for every episode. That's why Cowboy Bebop is a masterpiece. I couldn't have said it better myself, Bilal. Cowboy Bebop, the anime, of course, is one of the best. I mean, that's, to me, in my opinion, Cowboy Bebop, top 5 anime, easy. Easy. If anyone says best anime ever, GOAT, number 1, no complaints, no arguments, no debates. I mean, we all know the greatness of Cowboy Bebop. It's not overrated. Fuck you. I know what you're saying. I see you. I hear you. Take your ass to the back of the bus, because I'm not hearing it. Cowboy Bebop is amazing. We all know that. But that opening and the outro, the OP and ED, oh, God. Legendary, man. You know, there are certain anime where when you're binge watching it or just watching it over the course of a couple days, weeks, whatever the case may be, you watch the OP the first time, maybe the second time, then you start skipping it so you could just get straight to it. Cowboy Bebop, that's one you gotta watch it every time. The OP and the ED, that's one every time. It like the OP sets up every episode perfectly. And like Bilal says, the ED is the French kiss, the perfect finale for every episode. And that's just what it is, man. That's just what it is. If you have not seen Cowboy Bebop, I recommend it to the high heavens. What are you doing? Stop watching this shit. But I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. That is the end. Ah, man, this was a good one. I think Halloween is fast approaching, and I want to get another episode out, like a Halloween special. In fact, I promise it. I'm saying it right now. You guys can bet on it. If you're hearing this right now, on Halloween Day, there will be a special Halloween themed Botcast. But it's not going to have a TOD and all the extra shit. It's going to be, I'm going to keep it simple because I'm under time constraints here because I was late finishing this. But we are going to have a Halloween special for the Botcast. So look forward to that. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I got to get out of here. And yeah, man, look, love you guys. I'll see you later.